Broadcasting live from Chicago Comics in the heart of the Windy City. This is Mainframe Comic Con with live appearances by Kevin Smith. From Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Clark Gregg. Game of Thrones star, Nathalie Emmanuel. Star of Ant-Man and the Wasp, David Dastmalchian. From ABC's Nosferatu, Joe Hill, Jakara Smith, and Jamie O'Brien. Creator of The Toxic Avenger, director Lloyd Kaufman. He's in the All-Star, actor and comedian Scott Thompson. A rare interview with poster artist Bossligic. Emmy Award winner Seth Green. Comic creators Donny Cates, Chuck Palahniuk, and David Mack. And from New Girl and the new movie Bloodshot, Lamorne Morris. Stars of the movie Clerks, Brian O'Halloran and Marilyn Gigliotti. With celebrity guest hosts Robert Meyer Burnett, Perry Nemiroff, and Jay Washington. From ABC's Comic Book Men, Ming Chen. And special appearances by Natalie Dreyfus, Claudia Wells, Kane Hodder, Reb Brown, and a whole lot more. So stay home and nerd out. This is Mainframe Comic Con.
Man, I love that song, guys. Welcome to day 2 of Mainframe Comic Con, broadcasting live from right here, Chicago Comics, in the heart of the Windy City, guys. Before we get to our first guest, we got a bevy of amazing guests. It's hitherto undreamt of the level of amazing celebrity talent we got joining us all day here at Mainframe Comic Con. Before we get to our first guest, I just want to remind you, Mainframe Comic Con is a 100% for charity telethon, guys. So take a second, head on over to mainframecomiccon.com. Click that donate button. 100% of the proceeds are going to go directly to the Hero Initiative and the American Red Cross COVID-19 Relief Fund. So let's not waste any more time, guys. Let's jump right into our first guest. You know him as Kevin Smith, Mr. Kevin Smith. How's it going, man?
Good morning. How are you, man? Happy Comic-Con or Happy Con. I guess you can't say Con because that's owned by another property, but Happy Mainframe. Happy MF Comic-Con, which actually sounds more metal.
Yeah, exactly. The worst place to get stuck on a Sunday than in the middle of a comic book shop. We're having a blast here. Well, I've been asking all of our guests so far sort of how they've been handling their social quarantine. You have to be having a harder time with it. You just got off 6 to 8 months of living on the road, pumping the Reboot Road show. What's it like going from life on the road to life in the house? How's it treating you?
It's only 4 months, man. But 8 months makes me sound like a rock star. It was 4 months on the road. We did from October to December, and then we were down for Christmas, and then January through February. Our last day of the tour was February 26th in New Orleans, the day after Mardi Gras. So we were in all the places where there have been like huge flare-ups, oddly enough, and stuff. Yet none of us who were on tour, and there was only 3 of us, sometimes 4 when Jason was there, none of us got sick. So at the end of the tour, I was coming home. I had a few days, and then I was going to go back out into the world to South by Southwest. They had there's a documentary my friend made about me called Clerks that was debuting there. Then I was going to go back east to do some shows and stuff. And then suddenly everything started getting canceled. And I'll be honest with you, like as I was coming home from tour, I was like, man, if I just had like 1 month to just sit around the house and like catch up on writing, get my eating straight, go hiking every day, like, oh, it'd be so perfect. And then that happened. So in the midst of all this, I know like it's a bad reason, but like I've welcomed the opportunity to just be home, man. And it's allowed me to get to some writing. So I finished writing the Mallrats sequel, Twilight of the Mallrats. And then this morning and yesterday, since, I'm waiting on feedback from the people that I sent that script to, I was like, you know what? I'm going to dive back into the Moose Jaw script. So it's been like 4 years since I touched that. So now I'm kind of diving back into that as well. Just trying to make use of the time, man. There's, it's of course, we all like to be able to do whatever we want to do, walk around, do whatever, leave. Being American is all about, I'm going to get in my car and do whatever the fuck. But, in this time where, unprecedented time, as they keep saying, where we're living in a moment of history, there's not much we could do except take it in, watch a bunch of programming, which is like what I've been doing for a while, eat, which I've been doing a bunch of, or try to be productive. So I'm trying to be productive, use the time to get some words on the page, because one day they might let us go back to work. And if that's the case, I want to be ready to go with something.
Man, you mentioned Twilight of the Mallrats. We just saw that announcement on your Instagram. I believe it was a Friday night or maybe Saturday morning. Huge. I mean, we've been talking about that since 2017. Where are we at, man? Like, let's dive into Twilight of the Mallrats.
It is. I'm apologizing. I'm obsessed with my hat because I don't have my real hat. I grabbed the hat that I go hiking in, and it's smaller.
I thought that looked familiar.
I feel weird with that. In any event, I had written a script for a Mallrats sequel a couple years. God, it looks so crooked. I look like I'm like trying to put on attitude like this, but where's my head crooked?
It looks good.
Does it? Well, not good, but in my head, I look better. But in any event, I tried to write a Mallrats sequel years ago called what was it called? Mallrats 2: Die Hard in a Mall. And it was predicated on an old idea I had back in like 1995 when we were making the original Mallrats. And Jim Jacks, the producer, was like, you better have a sequel ready to go because this movie could be a hit. And I said, I got one ready to go. He said, what is it? I said, Mallrats 2: Die Hard in a Mall. And he's like, oh, that's perfect, because they were making a bunch of Die Hard knockoffs at that point. So a couple of years ago, my friend Jim Jacks, that guy who was the producer, he passed away. He's the guy that introduced me to Stan. He's the guy that got Stan into Mallrats. Jim Jacks knew Stan. I had written a scene for a comic book guru that Brody would speak to. And when Jim read the script, he was like, who's this meant to be? And I was like, well, in the real world, it would be like a Stan Lee. And he goes, why don't you just write it for Stan Lee? And I was like, well, I don't know Stan Lee. He's like, well, I do. And I was like, Hollywood is good. These fuckers know each other. So I through Jim, Mallrats became reality, and he was like partners in crime with me and Scott Mosier and putting that movie together and stuff. One of us, like, even though he was way older than us, he was like 50 and we were like in our late 20s. He was one of these cats in the business that, going years back, believed in the comic book movie, because Jim grew up reading comics, and that was why he knew Stan. He had worked at Universal for years as an exec, and he ran a company called Alphaville with his partner Sean Daniel. They did Dazed and Confused, they did Tremors, they did Tombstone and stuff. So he knew Stan because when Jim wasn't from Hollywood or anything, I think he was from Virginia, and he was meant to be an engineer, but he aggregated into the movie business because he was a big fan. When he got out here, he would take Stan out to lunch once a month because Jim loved comics as a kid. And he was just like, why isn't this guy's universe? Why all his movies? How come they're not making? He's got to be a resource worth tapping. Plus, he just liked hearing old Stan and Jack stories and Stan talking about the bullpen. So he would take him out all the time, hoping like, yeah, maybe one day something will come of this or something like that. And what came of it was him going like, oh, this kid I'm making a movie with, it's set in comics. You're a comic book guy. Brought us all together. So when Jim passed away a couple years ago, I was like, I'm going to finally make that movie in Jim's memory. And I wrote the script for a very different Mallrats sequel, Mallrats 2, which more closely resembles what Jay and Silent Bob reboot became, because I literally stole the third act from that old Mallrats script and put it into Reboot when I was writing Reboot, man. I was like, well, this script's never going to happen, but there's some good shit in it, including like Iron Bob. So I'm going to take that and use that as the third act for Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, change names and shit like that. But boom, it won't be wasted. So I was starting to hack up that script for parts and stuff. And I realized too that like that version of a Mallrats sequel, as much as I loved it, because it literally was just like terrorists come and take over the mall and Brody has to be John McClane. And, you know, they were Canadian terrorists and shit like that. So is goofy as fuck, but like I had a blast doing it. Problem is, if you walked into a movie theater and that was the Mallrats sequel and you're like, what does this have to do with Mallrats? Mallrats was literally a movie about two dudes bombing around in the mall who get broken up with, and then they get to go back out with their girlfriends at the end. Like it, even in an escalation like that as a sequel wouldn't make sense. Made more like sense in the world of Jay and Silent Bob reboot because Strike Back was a little more antic. But even though there's some like heightened reality to Mallrats, it is pretty straightforward day in the life movie. So I put that one to the side. And then when, it didn't really matter because nobody wanted to make it. I was trying to make Mallrats, that version of Mallrats with Universal. They had no interest in doing it. Then we tried to do it with Universal Television. And we went to 3 places like Netflix, Hulu, and I forget the other place. And each time, it was Showtime. I sat down at Showtime to pitch. So I remember I got real emotional crying about Jim Jackson. I was like, this is probably not a smart way to start a pitch. So, especially for a comedy, no less. So after pitching 3 places for the Mallrats series, every time you walked in the room, the young execs were like, oh, I loved Mallrats. I love Mallrats as a kid. I used to watch it all the time. And then you're like, great. Well, here's Mallrats too. And all of them just like, oh no. Yeah, like, that's Mallrats too? Oh my God. And so it never really went anywhere. So I put that to the side. I got frustrated because I was like, well, if what Universal was lovely. They, when I brought in the script, I was like, I want to do Mallrats 2 here. They were like, we own Mallrats 1. Like, it's not a huge title in their catalog. It wasn't Jaws, it wasn't American Pie.
We do.
In my world, Mallrats is huge. With my fans, Mallrats is huge. But in Universal, they literally had no idea that it was theirs. And so when I gave them the script, they were like, this is Universal, man. And I'll tell you something right now. This script is neither fast nor furious. So like they had no interest in making Jay and Silent Bob reboot. They had no interest in making, Mallrats. Later on, Universal came in on Jay and Silent Bob reboot and took international. So they paid for half the movie and had it overseas, released it everywhere that wasn't America and stuff. So at that point, I was working with a guy named Jasper, who was our boss at Universal. And he was like, we had this meeting. He came out to watch the flick and stuff at my house. And then we went to grab lunch. And he was like, movie turned out great. Jay and Silent Bob reboot. He's like, movie turned out great. Go figure. In this real like fucking surprised way. So he was like, what do you want to do next? We like working with you cats. You're on time. You pay your bills. Like everything's great. What do you want to do? Like, you got any ideas? And I said, there is a movie I would like to make that you guys have. And he goes, well, write up a 2-pager and let's get to work. And so that's when I went back in on a Mallrats sequel that had to more closely resemble the first Mallrats. So Gone is Mallrats 2, Die Hard in the Mall. As of December, like mid-December, right after Christmas, I started writing Twilight of the Mallrats. And I finished it on Thursday, Friday, and had a blast. It's funny. It's sweet. It's like kind of, it's set against the mallpocalypse. Like mall culture was already dying before the outbreak and before, the pandemic. And now post-pandemic, they say malls are going to be in a real bad way and start closing left and right. So suddenly that gets woven into the story. At one point you're like, well, do you want to bring up COVID in the movie? Because it's a movie and like, isn't that where people go to escape? But this is not even a generation defining moment. This is a history making moment. You're never going to be able to make some kind of movie set in reality without some sort of like reference to or post COVID kind of notion in a movie, even if nobody has a conversation like, remember the COVID, like people in masks, like whether or not people will be shaking hands in the future. Like clearly this is impacting. So as you're writing a story that you hope to tell in the future, you also have to pull in those details from the present. And one of my friends, Nate, read the script and he was just like, it threw me that I ran into COVID in the script. He's going, but like, I guess it makes sense. And I was like, I don't think anyone's ever going to be able to not address it like in media in the future. You know, in fact, it'll probably be like in everything for a while because we're all just coming through it. Think of how many like quarantine movies folks are going to make if they're not making them already while locked up in their houses and stuff, because it's a universal experience now that we all share. That's what pop culture references are, man. That's why, like, you could drop a reference to Iron Man and in your movie, and people are like, yeah, we all know that. Corona and this quarantine is now known by everybody. You don't even have to like know Marvel movies to know that reference. So it's a reference like sex. It's a reference like death. Like it's a reference like being born. It's now a universal experience. It's gotta weave its way into the work, I imagine. It certainly wove its way into mine. And that's not saying that everything I write now is going to be like, you got to talk about it. But this is the first thing that I was writing, and presumably the first thing I would make if we ever are allowed to go back to work. It's set in a mall, which, yeah, malls are dead right now. But for our purposes in the movie, there is a crowd in that mall. And like, we don't even know if you'll be able to shoot a crowd or something like that. So maybe that gets changed as well for a socially distancing crowd within the mall. Who knows? But you can't just assume that everything's going to look the way it did before this all happened. So it started weaving its way into the work, man. But I love the script. I had such a good time writing it. And it is like 180 degrees from the Mallrats 2 Die Hard in a Mall thing, but very, very on point for, you know, that's the thing. I became obsessed with like, you know, like these movies are, I view them differently than other people. They're like my kids, but at the same time, like now as I get older, I can play with them in different ways. Like, you know, years after we did a Clerks 2. So you get to like take those characters like into a different place in their lives. And most times when you make a sequel, it's usually right after the success of the first one, and you're capitalizing on that and trying to make as much money as possible. I make sequels years after it's marketable and, you know, doesn't really help the cause at all. And it's almost like restarting an engine and trying to start everything up over again. But for me, like going back and playing with Brody again, like which we did a little bit in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. But having Brody now firmly like spending 90 minutes with him, with his point of view of this world and this culture. Like one of the exciting things about that scene in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot to me was I got to let Brody talk about Marvel movies, which was something he never could do in 1995. In the Twilight of the Mallrats script, he gets to do that about like everything that like he hasn't been able to address in 25 years because he hasn't been in a movie or something like that, comes to bear in Mallrats as his world is crumbling. It's kind of like, you know, Brody is Jor-El and the mall is Krypton. And I guess he's less Jor-El. He wants to stay on the fucking planet. Everybody else is Jor-El and Brody's trying to maintain. But he's got to accept the fact that, like, you got to put the baby in the rocket sooner or later.
So you're talking about Brody. What about people like Brandy Spinning, TS? Is LaFours going to make a return? I mean, what
the whole cast list? Brody's back. TS comes back. Renee comes back. Willem comes back. Svenning comes back. Trish the Dish is back. Jay and Silent Bob are back. Brandy comes back. Is that everybody? I think I mean literally I was writing the movie. I kept looking at the poster and being like, all right, they got to come back. Like if they're on the poster, they're familiar to the audience, and if they work into the story as well. And it was nice to be able to work everybody like into the story, like you know, and updated. Willem is kind of now LaFours. I don't even know if you've seen Ethan in real life, but he's fucking jacked. Like,
really?
Oh, he's ripped as fucking shit. So now he's become the mall security guard and stuff. Like everybody gets a role, and the story is like it's not. It's I wouldn't say it's rooted firmly in reality, but it's completely plausible. Like, you know, every movie should be heightened, right? Otherwise, you're just watching real fucking life. But at the same time, like for me, it's always important to make it like somewhat plausible. Like this could happen. Aside from Jay and Silent Bob swinging around on ropes and fucking Mallrats, like, you know, Mallrats is plausible, could happen, shit like that. I tried to keep that with this as well, and the plausibility factor, like, oh, this could happen. Like Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Once you get in like the Russian terrorists and Iron Bob and bullets and shit like, then becomes like a fantasy and stuff. But I'm not saying Mallrats is like, oh, it's like Ken Burns' Civil War. But I'm saying it's like at least rooted in a reality that we all kind of see and understand. And then there are moments that heighten that reality. Jay and Silent Bob have the most heightened reality moments in all of Mallrats. Their shit is very absurdist that I came up with this time because I just spent a whole movie with them, so I didn't feel like I was going to overdo it with them in Mallrats. Particularly if you look at Mallrats, the original, they're you count the minutes they're in it. They're not in the entire fucking movie. They pop up as comic relief, so they function very much like that in Twilight of the Mallrats as well. And we don't have a game show in the third act. But the third act has an event that brings everybody to the mall. I mean, the whole movie is quasi set at the mall for a reason. So it like a damn good reason, because otherwise nobody would fucking be there. So we just kind of compound, the kind of nutty nature of it. But it is still rooted in reality. It's not like Martians show up and Brody's got to take them out.
Oh, man.
I know. I'm not that creative.
I want to ask you, I mean, I know Twilight, the Mallrats is your big thing you're working on right now. A couple weeks ago, you did announce some plans for a Clerks 3.
Yeah.
I know you probably can't talk much about it, but I'm curious because you've said on record that and I totally agree, how beautiful and poetic the ending of Clerks 2 was. It was just a lovely ending. You said how that's how you wanted it to end, with that dolly shot, turns to black and white, you got the milkmaid. I mean, all that stuff. What made you kind of want to go back to Dante and Randall?
Oh, look, you can end a movie with a lovely shot and be like, that's good. But once Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was meant to be the end of the Views universe, that's why God closes the book after the credits are all done. Atlantis pops up, closes the book, and it's like, we're done forever. And then years later, when I went into Clerks 2, I wanted to grab Atlantis to open it up with her opening the book, because if you look very closely, and this is so stupid, but in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, God closes the book at the end of the movie, but the book is halfway done. It's not like you got to the end of the book and shit. So I always left myself like this back alley of like, no, there's still more stories to tell. Clerks 2, I love that ending shot, and I love pulling into black and white. But the whole story of Clerks 2 is about seizing your destiny. I don't have to be somebody's employee. I could be my own boss and stuff like that, taking charge. But the last shot of Clerks 2 is very much like, be careful what you wish for, because you see them go like, we're going to do this, and this is what we need in life, and this will be everything. And then as the camera pulls back and shit just goes to black and white, you realize that was that the greatest decision they'll ever make? Like, that's what movies don't tend to do. Movies end on the note of like, this was great and everything will be great for all time. That shot communicates they went far. They got out of that place. And then their idea of victory was owning that place. And then they own it and they won. And then they're sitting there going like, did we? So that kind of leads into where we are in Clerks 3. In Clerks 3, we open with Randall having a massive heart attack. I told Jeff Anderson that, and he's like, where'd you get that idea? He had a massive heart attack. And when he's in recovery, Dante's there. And Randall's just like, I almost fucking died tonight. That was it. Like, I almost died. I'm 50 years old and I almost fucking died, and I have nothing to show for my life. What? I own a piece of a fucking convenience store in New Jersey? This is bullshit. He's going like, I wasted my entire life. I sat around watching movies my whole fucking life, never built anything. And when I die, who's going to fucking talk about me? I never got married like you did. I don't have a fucking kid and shit. I'm alone in this fucking world. And he goes, well, no more, man. As soon as I get out of this hospital, I'm going to go home and I'm going to write a fucking movie about my life, celebrating my fucking life, telling my fucking story. And we're going to shoot it in that fucking store, and you're going to help me. And so Dante and Randall essentially make Clerks. That's what Clerks 3 is about. How Dante,
oh my God, that's so exciting.
So that's the opening. And then from there on in, there's a lot of, there's ups and downs and epic shit happens. That's what I like to do is stories, particularly in the Views universe, generally speaking, the Jay and Silent Bob stuff being exceptions, exceptional stories about unexceptional people living in a very unexceptional world. You don't look at a convenience store movie and go like, that'll have the answers and shit. But it did for a bunch of people. You don't look at the mall and go like, that'll fucking have a lot of answers. But for some folks, it does. People that I love to write about, like me, when I started this job, came from places that don't normally get celebrated in the media. Like I remember Siskel and Ebert, when they reviewed the movie, I think it was Roger Ebert, was just like, it's about a guy working at a convenience store. He's going, you go to the movies, they tell you stories about kings and fucking heroes and shit. You never see a story about some dude just working a job. And that impacted me. Like when he said that in the review, I was like, yeah, that's what I do. I tell stories about people that have real jobs or weird jobs. Not like, it's never like, this motherfucker's the sexiest guy in the world. It's like, this guy is a comic book penciler and this guy is an inker. And if you don't know what that is, you're going to learn over the course of this movie and stuff. So I always felt like, because I came from a world of, for lack of a better description, interesting jobs. You know, when you're making movies is not what I would call an interesting job. It's rarefied. It's like, it's for spoiled fucking adult children and shit like that. Working a real job, like when you're dealing with the public and stuff, like working at a convenience store, that's like reality. And that was my reality. And I thought that would be my reality my whole life. So when I wrote Clerks, it was me writing about my life to lionize my life, but never thinking that like, oh, okay, I'll wind up doing this more than once. I just wanted to do it fucking once. And that was like 26 years ago. But that's still baked into my DNA. And now that's not to say like, thank God there are filmmakers that don't base their shit in reality. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fucking Star Wars, right? Like George Lucas, his first movie, aside from THX 1138, which is a special sci-fi movie, but his first movie that everyone sees and he gets loot for and acclaim for is American Graffiti. It's a day in the life about the life he grew up living. It's his Clerks, for lack of a better description, his Dazed and Confused. But, you know, of course, way better and way had a far deeper impact on the culture than anything I've ever done. Think about it. American Graffiti gave birth to fucking Happy Days. Somebody else was like, I'm going to do that as a fucking TV show, which gave birth to an entire industry of sitcoms, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, so forth and so on. So at the end of the day, like having American Graffiti, like George Lucas with that big success, could have been like, all right, I'm going to make movies in Modesto about growing up and fucking being now the next stage of life or fucking blah, blah, blah. But instead, thank God, he was like, I want to make a movie about Wookiees and it takes place in fucking space. I'm going to use my imagination. I'm not one of those cats. I don't have a big imagination shit, nor do I have a lot of confidence in my ability to attract an audience to tell a story. So I never go like, let me put my shit in space. You know, I generally go like, well, a mall, that's a big special effect. That looks like a movie, you know, right. And I tend to in that direction.
Well, we're waiting on Bossligic to hop on into the back room here. So Bossligic, if you're watching, please hop on. You're up after Kevin. So I thought I'd take a second to sort of open up at least one or two questions from the live chat.
Let's do it. But let's get. I probably won't be here when it happens, but like that Bossligic stuff. One of the simple joys of my life has been, particularly during the quarantine, jumping on Twitter and seeing him throw up designs for movies that don't exist, for movies that are about to exist. He did a poster for Doctor Strange 2 that I think had Brother Voodoo in it. And I was like, and we don't even know if Brother Voodoo's in the movie.
I don't know. Dream catcher and stuff hanging from it. Oh my God, it was so gorgeous.
I love other people's art. I can't draw for shit, and I'm no good with graphics. I'm about as good at drawing as I am at directing and shit. So I love when I could look at somebody's shit and it like grabs me where I'm like, oh, you can just get lost in an image like that. And then it's also so shareable too, where you send it to people and you're like, did you see fucking Brother Voodoo in this? It was very cool.
Yeah, well, we got the first one from Tim Balvance. Says, Kevin, what comic book film hasn't been made that you'd like to be involved with?
Oh, I don't know if I'd like to be involved. I love seeing these movies. I don't want to make those movies. That's hard. I've talked to people that make those movies. Sounds hard. Sounds very time consuming and shit like that. Plus, if you make one of those movies and then you fuck up, you're not allowed to talk about the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? Like people, I could be like, hey, I like the latest Batman. They'd be like, fuck you. You ruined the last Batman if you were that guy. So I never think about making those movies. That's my happy place. That's where I go to escape. Like when I'm like, I want to go to the movies. That's where I like to go. So I never look at them and go like, ooh, I want to do that or I should be doing this. That being said, there is a comic book. That being said, I want to be in any Marvel movie. I don't care about making them. Put my fucking fat ass in a Marvel movie. They could see you, and that's all I care about. Like, otherwise, you got to make that shit, and that seems hard. Talk to the Russo brothers. But a movie that somebody should make, I don't even need to be in it, but I think it would be a fantastic film. And the premise is made. Most comic book stuff is very much made for cinema or made for, presentation. It's fantasy, it's graphic, and they do things that you can't really do in the real world. That's why I like seeing Spider-Man swing is so breathtaking, because you don't see that shit in the real world. They take that from a comic book page. That's a comic book notion. Even if somebody had web slingers, they probably couldn't go as fast as Peter Parker does and stuff. That's what makes it fun, the dream prospect. DC got a character called The Question, which I always thought was tailor-made for like a film noir, because at its center, you have a very inexpensive story of mystery, right? Like somebody did something to somebody else. You got to figure that out. And that's not a very costly movie to make. What you have going for you with The Question, though, what makes it catchy, its hook, is that Vic Sage or Renee Montoya, whoever you go with, take the face putty from his belt, the pseudoderm, spreads it on his face, releases gas from his belt. The pseudoderm affixes to his face, and suddenly he's featureless. That is cinematic. You can see that fucking scene. And if you're somebody committing a crime, or even if you're a good guy, and you turn around and some motherfucker's behind you with no face, you would lose your shit. More so than you would lose your shit if you saw a guy dressed like a bat. You'd be like, fuck a bat. This supernatural freak has no fucking features. I'm terrified. So I think you could do The Question very easily. And kind of like, the way they just Blumhouse did Invisible Man. Like, that's a movie where it's not that expensive. I think the budget was like $7 million, because, your big special effect in that movie is the suit when they eventually show it. But most of the time, it's the lack of anything in a frame that is the special effect. It's like you realize invisibility is the cheapest special effect on the planet. But the budget's kept low because it's not like there's constantly showing how the suit works or something like that. In the terms of the Question movie, you can do this shit with the face, 5 times total in a 2-hour movie, max? That's your only special effect. And also, this doesn't, it affixing to his face, probably CG. But you could also just make a fucking mask and then, rubber prosthetics like in the old days. And then, it's not even costly. It's not even costly on a CG level. Although I'm sure some CG person would tell you, like, erasing people's features, that's probably, cheap. I don't know.
I don't know. You saw Justice League. It's not easy to erase facial features.
It would look like a Henry Cavill mustache shot for like a whole movie long. That's the one that I'm rooting for. And I remember, I've been involved with DC over the years and stuff like that. Years ago, me and Jeff Johns were talking about doing a series for CW, and we met at DC with this cat Pornsack, and we would come up with the show, that what it would be. And the problem with making the show had everything to do with, at that point, it must be cleared up by now, but the rights to Rorschach. Since Rorschach was owned by DC and he was kind of quasi-based on The Question, and Charlton was owned by DC, but I guess some people were saying like, well, wait, that doesn't include it. For whatever reason, legally, they hadn't done that yet. Like, it always... Like, I was like, why isn't The Question in something? And it had something to do with tie up right. I mean, he's in the cartoon, don't get me wrong, but in a movie or something like that. So I don't know if they've cleared that up or something like that, but I honestly feel like, I get making Wonder Woman 84. Wonder Woman was a great movie. Like, Patty Jenkins is amazing. The character's stellar, proven at the box office and stuff. And she's larger than life. She's a goddess. So of course you make that huge. You make a Question movie for under $10 million.
You're buying a ticket.
Who's not buying a ticket? I'm not saying everybody goes to every single comic book movie. We've seen that's not necessarily the case, but you got a strong brand behind it, the DC label and stuff. And if you cast that right, like somebody everybody loves, like Keanu Reeves or something like that, how does that movie not work? It's a cool concept, visually interesting. Just cast it right. It's home free. And then since, it's episodic, you could do a whole series of those. They don't even have to be expensive.
Great question. I forget even who asked that question in the comment section. Well, we got Bossligic backstage. Kevin, we'd like to invite you back. We're here all day. We got Ming Chen on later on today. If you want to hop back in, we have an open invitation. We have a comic book man, Ming Chen.
One of my favorite comic book men, if not my absolute favorite.
You've got the link. Hop on anytime today if you're getting bored. I mean, everybody would love to have you on a panel, so hop on anytime you want. We're going to go ahead and give it up to Kevin Smith, guys. Give a big virtual round of applause. Kev, thanks so much. You're welcome all day long. Feel free to just hop on in.
Real quick before I go.
Yeah.
That moment in, it's Avengers Endgame anniversary. The moment where Captain Marvel gets knocked out and Tony looks all panicked, and then he looks to Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange goes like that. What did that mean to you?
I'm afraid to open up this can, Kevin. I really am.
To me, and
I think that's it. I think you have to die in order for everybody else to live.
See, all right, that seems to be how a lot of people have read it. I didn't read it that way. I read it as him going, remember that conversation where I said there's only one reality in which we beat this guy? This is it, and we just lost because Captain Marvel beat down and stuff. So I never read it as him going, this is it, you got to do something. I didn't see it as a call to arms. I saw it as a panic going, we're dead. We're absolutely dead. There's no hope at this point. I'm so curious what other people think. Man,
well, that'll be the recurring question throughout the day here at Mainframe Comic Con. Kevin, thanks so much. You're welcome back all day long, guys. We're going to take just about a 60-second break as we queue up Mr. Bossligic. We got a lot of great stuff for him, so stick around. More Mainframe Comic Con all day long. Thanks, Kevin.
Bye.
Good evening and greetings.
Yeah.
Chicago Comics is the premier comic and collectible shop located in the heart of the Windy City. Founded in 1991, Chicago Comics brings a large and comprehensive comic book selection to collectors of all ages. Chicago Comics specializes in small press and hard-to-find indie comic titles and carries almost all available superhero titles and tons of merchandise. Toys and statues, clothing, and collectibles, Chicago Comics has everything you are looking for and a whole lot more. Whether you're a hardcore collector, casual fan, or weekly reader, you'll find what you're looking for at Chicago Comics. Open 7 days a week, stop by Chicago Comics, 3244 North Clark Street, in the heart of Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood. Or check them out online at chicagocomics.com.
Hey everybody, my name is Ryan McClellan from Yesterday's Entertainment Tomorrow, and I hope you are enjoying the fun and excitement of Mainframe Comic Con, a truly one-of-a-kind Comic-Con experience. In between all the celebrity interviews, you can check out how to donate to the American Red Cross and Hero Initiative. And also check out my channel for all the latest and greatest entertainment news. Celebrity interviews like Intellivision CEO Tommy Tallarico.
Grandma ain't going to be playing Night Stalker. I can tell you this right now.
The cast of Clerks.
You guys disgust me.
And the hottest journalists like Drunkle Vader.
3 glorious hours of previews to movies I have no interest in seeing.
We look forward to you subscribing the channel. And now back to Mainframe Comic Con.
Hey guys, look who we got. It's Mr. Bossligic. Thanks for sticking around, man. Thanks. We had such a good time talking to him. He had the greatest things to say about you, by the way.
I was. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just tuned in now. I was sleeping for like an hour.
Let me tell you something. I got to give you a huge thank you because a lot of people are enjoying Mainframe right now. It's the middle of the day. As you can see behind me, the sun is shining. You're coming to us from Melbourne, Australia. What time is it in Melbourne right now?
It's 3:40 a.m.
It's 3:40 in the morning, dude. So thank you so much. And another huge thank you. You helped us. You've been so instrumental in making Mainframe Comic Con a thing. You got us some of our best guests. You reached out. You know a lot of famous people, so you just brought them all to the fold. So huge thank you to you, Mr. Bossligic.
Nah, it's all good, man. You guys helped me a lot, so.
Well, we can't wait to see you again once you start making the physical Comic-Con circuit. But I want to just dive right in, man. Like, start talking about some of your work. I mean, everybody knows you. You're legendary. Even Kevin Smith was gushing on you just a couple of seconds ago. Some of the stuff you're working on. What are you working on right now? You got that multiverses thing you're doing on online. I'm loving it.
That's just a joke. My friend Sandu gave me some info about it. and he's been doing like versus series, but as a post. And he came to me and he goes, "You can make it more fun, like joining characters together in their own scenes." So that's what I did. I started like clashing characters, and it just blew up for some reason. Like, even funny story is that Joe Russo contacted me and said, "Would you be able to put, you know, Wick versus what's his name again? Rake? Was it Rake?
I don't
Is that his
remember.
name? From the Extraction movie? I forgot his surname.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, he told me to verse them versus each other because the movies were kind of like similar in action. So we ended up doing that.
I like the one you had Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson. That was awesome looking.
That was a good one.
That was great. So some of the other stuff you've been working on, I mean, obviously, guys, Bossligic. I didn't give a proper introduction. You know, fan artist, Marvel DC artist, poster artist. I want to dive right into one of the pieces that you did that just blew up the internet last year. You did our first look. You worked, I believe, with Jim Lee in doing the Black Adam poster. Can you kind of tell us how that happened? Like, what was the process? Did they contact you?
I got a phone call from Jim Lee. That was weird. We were in Canada, and I got a text message first that says, "Can we call you?" And Jim Lee called me, and then we got in contact with the Rock's agents and stuff, and all together collaborated on this fusion project, which Jim Lee would sketch something out, and I would render it out in my style. So that was a first, and it was also a bucket list to work with Jim Lee. So it was crazy.
I mean, it's great. It just exploded all over the internet. Any idea? I mean, are they going to take exactly sort of the way you guys designed it? Are they designing the character based on the way you did the poster, or was it the other way around?
I highly doubt it. I think they'll have their own team to create something. I think they wanted just to build hype for Black Adam at that certain point. But hopefully, I'll still be working with it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something else you're wildly famous for on the internet is sort of your fan casting art. I mean, like if a rumor starts floating around that XYZ, you know, that this person's going to be in this movie as this character, you have posters and artwork up like within the hour. It's amazing. And that's just one of the things that's just like sent you into the super stratosphere of artists online. Do you have an inside track on any movie casting, or is it all just kind of coming out of your head?
I only had one, which was Batman. I had inside track, but everything else usually only takes me like an hour or 2 hours to create something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a quick mashup of something just to make it look good, just to go with the news. But yeah, it doesn't really take me long.
Tell us about that Batman one. So did DC call you up and say, "Hey"?
No, I wasn't DC. They're not allowed.
Yeah, I know we already got people in the chat room wants to ask you some questions. This one right here, we got what comic book villain would you like to see in a Marvel DC movie that hasn't shown up in any yet? Any Marvel or DC villains that you'd like to see in a movie?
Mephisto.
Yeah. Where's Mephisto? Maybe in the new Doctor Strange.
Yeah, hopefully.
So
and hopefully it's Christian Bale. That's what I want.
There you go. I have a feeling you might know something that we don't know. I want to talk a little bit about, because obviously you're from Australia. You did a really big push this year when the Australia wildfires were going on. Can you tell people a little bit about sort of that project that you did? You were selling prints for wildfire relief.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to do something to help the process, like use my talents to get, the support for the whole thing. And so I figured I'd do a couple of prints and put them on imprint, which imprint were happy enough to give me more percentage of the cut that I get for my prints, more than I usually do. So I can forward that to the Red Cross. And we ended up raising $10,000. So that's awesome. Pretty, yeah.
Did you have a favorite piece? We ordered the Groot. Oh my God, what a sad one that was.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite one you liked?
I like the Groot one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Well, so anything you're working on, anything coming up anytime soon?
There's a lot of stuff that are coming up.
Yeah.
Actually, if this interview was after Wednesday, you would see the major project that I've been working on. I can't really say it now, but it's a huge project, and I think people will be
You
excited
say if
about
it's
it.
Marvel, if it's DC, if it's independent.
It's let's just say I'm just gonna say it's gaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
but there is movies as well. There's Marvel stuff as well, but
That's awesome.
I still can't talk about it.
Well, I mean, man, you got a lot of stuff, a lot of little secrets, little skeletons in your closet. We got another question here from Ebony Davis writes, what has been the craziest experience since becoming such a popular artist? Like, what has happened since you started doing this that you didn't expect or that blew your mind?
Well, the craziest thing was probably the Jake Gyllenhaal on Jimmy Fallon. That's probably the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. But also just celebrities randomly messaging me and saying, can you create this so they can pitch this? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, if for those of you who are watching who don't exactly understand what he's talking about, a couple of years ago, I think it was, Jake Gyllenhaal, he was promoting Spider-Man Far From Home. And he went on the Tonight Show, he went on the Jimmy Fallon show, and they just started talking about you, talking about the Mysterio character and the artwork that you did for Mysterio. I mean, what was that like? I mean, being talked.
It was like it went beyond that, and just like they're just screwing up my name for like half an hour.
He did. Yeah. I mean, you also attended the premiere of Avengers Endgame, I think.
Yeah.
Who'd you take to the red carpet or the purple carpet?
My little brother, and I also took my cousin to that thing. It was crazy because you're like standing there amongst everyone that's in the movie, that created the movie, the camera crew, everything. It's just a crazy experience. Then the after party was even better because everyone was drunk. So
I've got a comment from Ann's Funk Comics. When are you going to do a comic book cover?
Done a few now. I've just recently released a Spider-Man one you can check out. It's on my Twitter, I think a few posts back. And also I officially done a Captain Marvel variant and also Joker and Harley DC variants as well.
We got one right here. Fandads, what has been your favorite Rise of the Jedi image that you have made?
Rise of Jedi.
Like Return of the Jedi? Rise of Skywalker? I'm not really sure what he's talking about.
I don't know which one is. Well, my favorite Star Wars piece is when I got Rey split in half and she's the evil and good side. That's my favorite Star Wars piece.
Awesome. Starfield would be great. Hang on. This is awesome, man. So convention attendance. Obviously, this year nobody could go to any conventions.
2020 died.
2020 is dead. We got
Yeah.
up to C2E2, and then we just had to stop. And hopefully, it picks back up in 2021.
The thing is, I was in America for C2E2. Like I was there, and then it's like turn back. Nah. But in hindsight, it's actually good.
Yeah.
I got kicked out.
Yeah. Personal story between just me and Bossligic. He was supposed to be here. We had this whole thing planned. He was going to be on our show. And when we finally set up our booths at C2E2, we were literally going to be booth mates. We were like right next door to each other. It would have been so great. But any plans in 2021? Are you even starting to make any plans of where you might be going if pretend things went back to normal tomorrow?
All the big shows, I'm doing them. Like San Diego Comic Con, Chicago, what is it? New York Comic Con. Ace, not all of them, but maybe two of them. Just wherever they can take me. Like I'm hoping to do, like I was hoping to do like 6 months or 4 months of shows this year, but obviously because of what happened.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it kind of is a good thing because I mean, it kept you safe, it kept you healthy, kept you not being stuck in the States. So now you can comfortably work from your studio at home. We get a question from a Dynamic Comics. Have you done Superman, any art for Superman?
Yes. I just done one recently where I mashed him up with Dr. Manhattan. But I have a whole bunch of other Superman stuff, but I need to make new stuff.
Didn't you do one? It was did you do a Batman Superman one time? Or I know you did a Superman Black Adam, was it?
Yes. The one I officially done for The Rock was Black Adam versus Superman, where Superman's beating the crap out of Black Adam, and that was The Rock's request to actually do that.
How did that happen?
Well, when we were pitching that stuff back then, like just doing fan out of it, The Rock, I saw him follow me. I'm like, holy shit, The Rock followed me. And then I saw a DM. I'm like, oh fuck, what does he want? And I'm like, I clicked the DM, and he's saying he loves my work and all that stuff. But then he wanted to put me in contact with his agent, which his agent sent me an email of a concept that they wanted in mind, and they want Henry Cavill's Superman beating the shit out of Black Adam. I'm like, how's that promoting you? And he's like, just do it. And I'm like, all right, I did it. And then it was like 8 months or 9 months. Yeah, 9 months. Then they showed the work. It's like they posted it out there. I'm like, okay, finally they showed it. And I wasn't allowed to talk about it or anything till then. So that was a good time.
We got another question from and thanks again for being here, by the way. I know it is late in the morning over in Melbourne.
I got more for some reason. I was tired before, but now I got like more energy, so it's all good.
Perfect. So Jamie Williams asks, what's the piece that took the longest?
I had a personal piece ages ago that took me, I think, altogether maybe 60, 70 hours to finish off. But I wasn't even that good back then, so the end result wasn't great. But the stuff that takes long now is the longest one would be probably The Last Shawarma. That would have took the longest one. And plus it's a 3-part series, so you could add all that time together, so it's probably 60 hours together as well.
This is the classic question right here. What's your all-time favorite project to have worked on and why?
Possibly, not even possibly, it's Endgame, because Endgame opened every single door, like for me career-wise. And I got to work on covers. Now I get to work on covers for DC, and I'm not limited to anything, but like to the world, after Endgame, my name was more visible, and I appreciate Joe Russo for even getting me on board.
Let me throw this. This is a super chat. Thank you very much, Great Legend, for donating to the super chat. He just says, Drew Mantrue, this is the best con. Thanks a lot, man. We really appreciate it. This one, Boss 100% should offer some videos on graphic design. That would be great. You ever think about doing any YouTube videos and kind of showing people how to do your stuff?
I've been promising this for like 2 years, and I am gonna do it, but I don't know when. It's just I don't want to go on YouTube and be like every other person that does videos and stuff. I want to be more unique, and the way people teach people on YouTube is kind of the slow process. Like it makes people hate learning because it's such a long learning curve. And I can teach them tips and tricks to do it faster, but I just want to know how to format it. So soon I'll 100% look into that.
All right, I want to play a little game. I know, and I'm doing this because I know you're tired, and I want to just get you while you're vulnerable.
I'm good, man.
I'm going to name a few X-Men characters, a few of my favorites that I want to see eventually.
I'm actually ready for this. I need to get their names before I botch them.
All right, guys, open this up. This is going to be open to you guys in the chat as well. This is our interactive chat with Mr. Bossligic. I'm going to name a character in the MCU, and you guys got to kind of fan cast it for us. So are you ready? Let's go ahead and get it started. Mr. Sinister. Okay. And I know Robert Meyer Burnett, who I see sitting in the chat, he's freaking out right now. He's like, oh, God, I got a great one for Mr. Sinister.
I've actually made a piece about it. Bryan Cranston. I want Bryan Cranston. As Mr. Sinister.
Chad, can we throw Rob in real quick? I know he has a couple ideas. If we can just kind of go three-way on this. Robert Meyer Burnett's going to be doing Lloyd Kaufman up next. But,
I think Bryan Cranston as Mr. Sinister. Where's that poster? I want it now. And let me just say, it's a great honor to be in a stream with you, sir, because, man, every time some news drops, you bust out just the most, I'm like, oh, my God, I want to see this movie right now.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it, and the entire the world appreciates it whenever you come out with another one of your pieces of unbelievable work.
Thank you, man.
Unbelievable. But man, can I see the Mr. Sinister as Bryan Cranston Are you going to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Please tell me.
No, I already have it. Just write Bryan Cranston, Bossligic, and you should find it in Google.
It's already out there?
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's already out there.
My favorite X-Men villain.
All right, well, let me throw a new one out. Okay, now, someone who hasn't played him yet, Professor X.
Okay, this one was hard because the original one is like amazing, but Mark Strong, he would be amazing as Xavier, but now Shazam has him. Well, he's not there anymore, so you can still use him.
All right, I got a weird one for you. You ready? Sabretooth.
Travis Fimmel.
Travis Fimmel. Right.
Yeah.
Rob, you got a Sabretooth queued up?
Or Jason Momoa.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah,
Momoa.
Yeah.
Rogue. Because, not to be, stereotypical guy, but I mean, Rogue has a certain look.
Yeah. I really like the look of, have you watched The Gifted? The show on BBC? Yeah, the Skylar Samuels. Yeah. If you type her up and write brunette after it, she has her look completely. So you can actually see it.
What about, have you ever thought about doing Mojo from the Mojo, the Mojo verse with where Longshot is from?
No, I've never.
I got the
never
perfect
contemplated
one. Rob, you got a Mojo?
I don't. I was just thinking I want to see you do a piece of art with as Mojo. Somebody is Mojo.
I got it. Who and God, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, and it's so stupid. He was the guy who played the clown in the original Spawn movie.
John Leguizamo.
Leguizamo as Mojo. I mean, just picture it.
Yeah, he's in the John Wick films too.
All right, Bossligic. If I just want to see it, just do it, see it and do it and send it to me and Rob.
I'll do it for you.
Leguizamo as Mojo. It could happen.
I'll do it for you guys.
Well, man, Bossligic, I can't thank you enough, man. I know it's crazy late over in Melbourne. Anything you want to say? Like, where can people find you on social media? Where can people see your stuff?
Just type in Bossligic on basically all socials.
Just Google me. Just Google me. I'm everywhere. Well, cool, man. Thanks a lot so much for being here.
I have a lot of fake accounts as well, so yeah, follow them all. So, don't.
Well, the Instagram, it's got the little star next to it. That's Bossligic.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for being here, man. Really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait to see when you come back to Chicago in 2021. We are going to link up. Side story, by the way, Bossligic, one time we were in Chicago and he invited us out to dinner. It was right after a convention. And we were so tired, we had to break down our booth. And I was like, man, I'm sorry. We can't. We got to break down the booth. He's like, all right. So he goes out to dinner. And then we look on his Instagram later on. And Taron Egerton showed up to the dinner just to hang out and have drinks with you. And I'm like, we should have been to that dinner. So
you should have came, man. It's like,
I know.
Oh, look at that.
Is that Cranston?
Yeah, it's Cranston.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Where's that movie?
It's coming.
Why wasn't Mr. Sinister in Logan?
Right? He was supposed to be. Wasn't he teased at the end? Like he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Bossligic, thanks a lot for being here, guys. We have got so much Mainframe Comic Con left. We're just peeling off the top of the cat food jar right now here at Mainframe Comic Con. Up next is Lloyd. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, who you got?
Lloyd Kaufman. Lloyd Kaufman's coming up next. We've got David Harbour coming up later on. We got Ming Chen. We got the cast of Robot Chicken. We got it's hitherto undreamt of the level of talent we got. We got Perry Nemiroff coming on later on. So stick around, guys. We're going to take about a 60-second break as we queue up Lloyd Kaufman and Robert Burnett.
Last thing, shout out for inviting me to this and inviting everyone. And I think next year, hopefully this is not around, but this sort of format is pretty good. So I reckon you should keep doing it. Yeah,
I think we will, man. Well, you're definitely our first guest. You were our first guest booked this year. You're going to be our first guest booked next year.
I appreciate you guys, man. Now I'm going to get some sleep. All
right, man. Good night. And
take care.
Enjoy your Monday. Guys, we'll be back in about 60 seconds with Lloyd Kaufman and Robert Burnett.
Good evening and greetings from Tromaville. Tonight we embark.
Nope, wrong one.
Okay, you back?
we're saving that one for later.
All right. So you guys are still here?
Yeah, we're...
Available now from Cold War Fight Your Friends, the fun and fast card dueling game featuring incredible characters from your favorite indie comics. From a huge cast of characters, choose a crew of 10 fighters and rumble with your buddy across 4 action-packed rounds of magic, muscle, and mayhem. Fight your friends. All you need is 10 cards, 10 minutes, and 1 friend.
Hey there, from Philadelphia.
Hey everybody, it's Amber from Miami Beach.
Hey guys, Steven here from Team Comic Con Africa.
Hello, from Philadelphia.
Hello from Boston.
Hello and much love from Seattle.
Hello from Manchester.
Hello from New York.
Hey from New York.
Hi everyone from New York City.
Hello from Chicago.
What's up from Miami?
Hello from Chicago.
Hey from New York.
Saying hello from Seattle.
Hey from New York.
Greetings from Los Angeles.
Hey guys, it's Lance with Reed Pop. Just want to remind you that we're all fans too here at Reed Pop, and we miss you guys. We're super excited that as soon as we can to start building awesome shows for you again, whether it's New York Comic Con, Emerald City Comic Con, PAX, Star Wars Celebration. We're ready to go. We'll see you soon, I hope.
I guess I'm live now, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this next guest, I'm not even worthy to introduce this man. Long before he was incarcerated in distant galaxies in the kiln, he was bringing you entertainment, the likes of long before the MCU existed. This man was responsible for the Toxic Avenger, Sergeant Kabuki Man, the class of Nukem High. He donated his editing equipment to allow Rocky to get made. This man is one of the greatest legends that cinema has ever seen. A man that I can't even talk about him. He's that incredible. So without further ado, let me introduce the man, the mayor of Tromaville, Mr. Lloyd Kaufman.
Well, hey, Robert. I was just boning up on the clarinet. Every night at 7 o'clock, we go out in the street here in New York and we serenade and applaud the wonderful frontline heroes. But I was very nervous because you're a major player, and thank you for doing the interview. So
are you kidding me? When they asked me, they gave me people I could interview. I'm like, Lloyd Kaufman, like the Lloyd Kaufman, a legend, a man. Listen, sir, I have to say that you've been an inspiration. I read that you once worked for the Peace Corps, and I'm sure that's what led you to make movies like Class of Nukem High and creating the Toxic Avenger, but more importantly, creating long-lasting, legendary films that are going to exist for decades, if not centuries to come. And I guess to begin, I'd love to know, what is your guiding principle or your guiding philosophy about filmmaking? What led you to create the pantheon of characters and works that you're responsible for?
Well, thank you, Robert. You've made a bitter, sad old drunk very happy. Now, this is like me getting the Oscar for whatever they do with the bullshit. Any lifetime Oscar. This is better, much better. Now, question for you is, I made the mistake of going to Yale University, where I was placed in a room with a movie nut, and our beds were very close together. And at night, I'd inhale his Scorsese stinking feet, and I caught the movie bug. And he was an auteur. The auteur theory came out of the French, post-war France. I'm really boring, so I'm sorry. I don't know anything about Doctor Strange, but I know a lot about the auteur theory of cinema, which suggests it was propounded by Godard and Claude Chabrol and the other post-war French journalists who eventually became auteur. Auteur means author, that one should be in total control of the movie. And so I kind of traded the problems with a low budget for having total freedom. And as Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. I think young filmmakers ought to remember that when they're going into this art, because it is an art, and there are easier ways to make money. That is for sure. Very few people get to walk up the red carpet and wear $200,000 obscene clothing and jewelry and all that stuff while most of the world starves.
Well, but you, sir,
we'll never have that.
You created the Toxic Avenger. I mean, and also, in addition to the amazing work that I think Troma has done, and you can't grow up, I mean, especially during the home video age when VHS was king and there was no DVD, no Laserdisc, no Blu-ray, no 4K discs. I don't think you could go to a video store without tripping across a Troma film.
You're
And
correct. There were 15. We were told there were over 1,500 stores with Troma sections. But today we have Troma Now, the hot news streaming service. Sorry, go on, Robert.
Oh no, I was just looking at that, and what's fantastic is you hear about these bigger and bigger streaming concerns, whether it's HBO Max or Netflix or the Peacock. I think the one everybody really should get is Troma Now, where we have a legacy of cinema that is at your fingertips. One click, you can get all of the many, whether you want to go and meet Sergeant Kabuki Man. I mean, the movies that are actually set in Tromaville, the town that you are, of course, the mayor of, you have a shared universe long before there was Marvel's or the DC shared universe on the big screen. Could you talk about that, and how did Troma Now, how'd you decide to jump into the streaming service?
Well, thank you very much for that excellent question. I have to make one correction, though. One of the few things I learned at Yale, other than drugs and comic books, was I became friends with Stan Lee in 1967. And the Marvel Universe was already in progress, but it was not the Marvel of today. It was,
sure.
Stan worked for magazine management in New York. And I searched him out, and we wrote a script. He had an idea for a script called Night of the Witch, which I wrote in 1970. And that's a long time ago. It's a very good script. Got optioned a few times, but never, unfortunately, did not get made. But it would have been very cool if Stan Lee's Night of the Witch, directed by Lloyd Kaufman. And by the time I had enough money to make it, his partner didn't want to do it because it was only $500,000 budget, and Stan was only going to be involved in the AAA type of movie. Stan was all for it. We had the guys who were going to put the money up from Finland came to California. They met with Stan. They met with me. We had it all set up, and then unfortunately, Stan's handlers wanted to keep him in making money.
There's still time. You can take it now.
It's a very good film, Night of the Witch. Unfortunately, I would feel bad about using Stan Lee's name, but we'd have to get clearance from his delightful next generation.
But you went from, like you said, getting the bug from your roommate in college to becoming a fan of you've become an auteur yourself. As a matter of fact, you probably made more movies than most of the greats of French cinema where that label was first hung on them.
Indeed, Troma has 47 years with the longest running independent movie studio. Michael Hers and I started in 74. And one of the great ways we save money, we were able to do movies for $500,000, like The Toxic Avenger, is instead of going out to California and operating a Xerox machine for one of those agencies and kissing ass for blah, 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 and pitching, and which I'm not good at. I'm very good at groveling, but they never bought my act. So I never got into that thing. Well, we're going to get Justin Bieber to blah, 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 whatever, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I never had to enter that world because we created our own star. There he is. The Toxic Avenger. There he is.
1984 he debuted on
He
Cinema
sure
Station.
did. And he's Troma's Mickey Mouse. And if there's anybody out there that has not seen Citizen Toxie, the fourth one, Citizen Toxie, that's the best one. And unfortunately, by the time Citizen Toxie came out, the major studios, the media cartel, had pretty much usurped all the pathways to the public. So Toxie, in his fourth movie, relied on word of mouth, and so a lot of people don't know there even is a fourth, but it's the best one. And guess who it was written by, Robert? None other than Trent Hager. Trent Hager, who wrote 68 Kill and Cheap Thrills, and he is moving up. He'll be the next alumni like James Gunn, I think, to make it big and
Well, that's
make it good.
You know, you did work obviously early on in James's career. You I believe he wrote Romeo and Juliet, and then you also work with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, getting their work distributed early on. And you've been
we helped them. We with them. We made them put in the beginning of the movie. They hadn't finished Cannibal the musical, and here's a good lesson for you young people who want to make movies. They sent that movie to us first, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, because they were fans. But we told them, hey, we don't have money. We can't pay you a big advance. Go to all the big companies And if they get, and that movie wasn't finished, but my wife and I saw the rough cut of what they had, and it was hilarious. It was brilliant. A song where he says he's singing a romantic love song. When I'm on top of you, camera pulls back, and he's sitting on top of his horse. I mean, come on, that is genius. And I'm a big fan of being a gay married man. I'm a big fan of all the wonderful Broadway classics, musicals. So I fell in love with Cannibal the Musical. We made them add a more Troma-esque opening. So if you've seen the movie Cannibal the Musical, you'll see that the opening is more of a Monty Python cartoon kind of Troma violence than the rest of the movie. And because we had just put out Class of Nukem High and Class of Nukem High, I can't remember what the order was, but we were on a roll. So we felt we want to give our fans at least the opening, give them the Troma technique. And Trey and Matt are wonderful. I'm in their Orgasmo, which is, if you haven't seen Orgasmo, it's terrific.
Fantastic. Now, did you ever think that when you were at Yale, you would become not just a director yourself, but a mentor for the next generation? Well, actually, many generations of filmmakers. And was that ever a response? Did you feel a responsibility to the next generation that coming up as well?
That's a great question, Robert. Once Michael Hers, who's really the CEO of our company and has miraculously kept us afloat in spite of movies like Terror Firmer and hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm, which we just completed right before the COVID. By the way, I think COVID-19, we're looking forward now to COVID Pro. I understand the guy in Australia is going to be using that for his new brilliant, what was his name, by the way? He was great.
Bossligic, who was here before you?
Yeah, I know his work. He's terrific.
Amazing.
Yeah, what a good guy.
So, I mean, but did you feel like being somebody who's inspired filmmakers like Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and then working with James Gunn, and then he comes back and puts you in his first big Marvel movie? Was that something that you ever considered doing, that you would become not only a director yourself, not only an auteur, but also an inspiration to many filmmakers that came after you?
Well, once Michael Hers and I became successful with Troma, we wanted to dedicate a good portion of our energy to raising the profile of independent art and cinema, because it's under assault. And it's not just under assault, Robert, as you know, it's also under a pepper. And when you have salt and pepper all together, chaos. And we wanted to try to help other crazy independent auteurs. Trey and Matt were they, and among others. And we have a library of about 800 movies, which are shorts and documentaries, and also comic books and cartoons, all of which are on Troma now, and watch.troma.com, ladies and gentlemen, and all others. Watch.troma.com, and first month is free. So if you are cooped up in the house, you can probably go through all the library and not pay a penny. But let me say one other thing. Google and Amazon are censoring, they're demonetizing the independents. They are going to be throttling the net neutrality has gone away, and they're slowly but surely, while we're all dying of COVID, AT&T is selling fast lanes and throttling you and me. And we got to tell our elected representatives that if net neutrality is destroyed, which means that probably that's the end of Troma and a lot of other independents, the elected independents will not be voted in again. We really have to put pressure on Washington to, and also we probably have to get rid of this Ajit Pai, who is chairman of the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, and get rid of him and get some Democrats in there to clean it up, and also legalize marijuana. Very important.
Well, to speak to that, we did see even Netflix, they asked the streaming services to chill out and to not stream in as high quality as they could during this crisis. Now, with Troma Now, which it's a wonderful site. And for a Troma fan like myself, seeing everything that you've gathered there, it's a lot of fun. And I would recommend that anybody with even a slight interest in the history of Troma should go there, because you can't help but smile when you start clicking around that site and seeing what you've got up there. And also, I didn't realize how many films that you not only made, but also picked up for distribution. There's a lot there. And what made you decide to start Troma Now? Well,
if you go to YouTube, if they haven't totally destroyed it. I did a little documentary. It's also on Troma now. It's called Independent Artists versus the Media Cartel. Independent Artists versus the Media Cartel. And I illustrate with specific examples, not Troma examples, but other independent films that have either been mutilated or demonetized or kicked off, or they want and a lot of the filmmakers are doing it. They want to change. They tell them to change the title because the title has the word marijuana or pot or violence or whatever. We have a freedom of speech in this country as long as we don't say anything. So we started Troma Now about 5 years ago. We saw what was going on, and we figured in the same way that we learned theatrical distribution back in the 70s because of the cartel, and we had to do it ourselves because we made 3 movies and got back not 1 penny from the distributors. We decided we would learn the streaming business, and it's a great service. The biggest problem we have is we have no money. And we need an app. We need a Troma Now app. And otherwise, you can only see Troma Now on your laptop, which is great for staying at home in the lockdown. But if you're on the subway or you're at your local strip club and you want to just happen to tune in to Blood-Sucking Freaks or Death by Temptation or Terra Firma or Troma's War or the 800,000 other movies, you can't do it. We can't do it. We don't have the app. You can't go on Roku. Roku doesn't. They took us. Vimeo shook us down, basically. If we want to pay $30,000 for their Roku, they took over the company that was hosting us. So now if we want to be back on Roku, we got to pay a toll, apparently, of $30,000. So we got to find a fan who can make a Troma Now app inexpensively. We can pay, but we can't pay $30,000. We have filmmakers making movies, entire movies for under $30,000.
Yeah,
I can't, but the young people can.
Well, now you do have a new movie that I hear that you sent the first look. You'd mentioned it, Shakespeare Shitstorm,
hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Hashtag, and I heard you sent in a first look trailer that I'm told that we can play.
Oh, sure. In fact, this is probably the world premiere of the first theatrical trailer. It's got a very ugly person in it, but if I'm not mistaken, there are other trailers more theatrical that are coming out shortly. By the way, Mutant Blast. If you have any chance to see Mutant Blast by Fernando Ale, who did a lot of special effects for us in the past and worked on Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High Volume 2, which is, they're all on Troma Now. In fact, Volume 2, Return to Nukem High, is, you can rent it for virtually nothing or buy it for a little more than nothing. Fernando Ale did a great job, and he sent a script in that was very Troma and very original and had some good political points and environmental message. And we opened in LA, very successful, but unfortunately, it was the weekend. We had 1 week prior to the COVID lockdown. So the director and he went back to Portugal where we shot the film, and I went back to New York. But it was doing very well, Mutant Blast. So check it out. It's going to open New York. It was opening on April 3rd, but obviously everything's set back. So I'm not sure exactly what we'll do. If a lot of our fans, by the way, if a lot of our fans want us to put the Mutant Blast on Troma Now, hit me up on either Instagram or Twitter, and I'll look into putting it up for rental or something.
Well, why don't we watch, I guess, this first look at hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm?
Yes, it's based on The Tempest. It's not the first Shakespeare, but it's my favorite Shakespeare. As you know, James Gunn and I made Romeo and Juliet, which has become a classic, and Museum of Modern Art put Romeo and Juliet in their Breaking Bard week, where they showed 3 Romeo and Juliet movies. Zeffirelli, what's his name? The Australian guy,
Baz Luhrmann.
Baz, what's his name again?
Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah, he's an opera. We saw his La Boheme on Broadway. Wonderful. And then Romeo and Juliet. And ours was at 4 p.m, and the house was full, mainly of old people, I think, who wanted to see some naked people. And by 6 o'clock, nobody for Zeffirelli, and the Baz Luhrmann at 8 o'clock had about half of it. But the Romeo and Juliet, because our movies are not seen by enough people, was packed.
Right.
Good evening and greetings from Tromaville. Tonight we embark on a magical journey into a new era of wonderment for the Troma team. We bid adieu to our past endeavors of the grotesque and unsightly, so that we may present to you the most accurate and compelling production of The Tempest ever brought to the silver screen. Join us now as we evoke the spirit of enchantment, as we tell this tale of magic, family, loss of power, betrayal, and above all, brutal revenge, as only the Bard and the Troma team can do. Our revels now are ended, and these, our actors, as I foretold you, are spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped mountains, the solemn temples, the glorious palaces, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherits shall dissolve.
Those scat-covered snowflakes are caught in the shitstorm!
I found a cure for opioid addiction. What I didn't realize is that the opioid addiction is a $50 billion industry, enriching the elites. All these years I've been planning my revenge against Avon Bard and all the world. I had Ariel infiltrate their boat and using gallons of whale laxative lured them to their doom. Tis I who's beckoning. Time's up and welcome to your final reckoning. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let the sparkle in your eyes twinkle as the time grows nearer. For hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm is coming soon to your local theater. Now, excuse me, I've got to practice. I've got to accompany Lizzo. She got a big concert at Chuck E. Cheese. Excuse me.
Well, it doesn't look like you're going to disappoint anybody anytime soon. That looks like peak Troma. I'm excited.
My partner, Michael Hers, has no idea about any of this. He hasn't seen one thing, and he's going to run into this trailer at some point with me.
Well, I mean, you've got references to everything from Free Willy to The Shining in there. I mean, come on.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for enjoying it.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
It's probably my last movie, and it's pretty good. My wife, who was the New York State Film Commissioner, she produced it along with Justin Martell and John Brennan, both of whom were my assistants for a couple of years each. And the three of them did a wonderful, wonderful job.
Why would it be your last movie? Don't say that.
Unless we don't exactly have a lot of revenue, and the major media has not exactly embraced our 40th. The New York media said nothing about our 30th year or 40th year. And this is my 50th year, and there's been a resounding, I do like the sound of crickets, but in New York, it's not. You know.
But I think that's why you're here. You've got a worldwide audience of fans, generations of fans, Mr. Kaufman. That
you're correct. The secret ingredient to Troma, we look a lot bigger than we are, but our fans make us look like a huge international corporation. They book our movies into their local theaters. They even gave us money for Return to Newcomb High when we would have had to go on hiatus because some money we expected to come in, some crooks didn't pay. So we would have had to go on hiatus, but the fans raised $80,000 to get us through that loop and down. They help us flatten the curve, and they've also do graphics for us. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see tons of on my story. There are tons of fan art and we use it. In fact, Manny Skins, a wonderful special effects artist, she's done a sketch for us, which 2 sketches, and we've been using it to advertise both Troma Now and Troma generally. And then another guy, Matt Cloud9, who's on Twitter and Instagram, did the contest. There's a big Troma Now contest where you can win a part in Mercedes the Muse, not Mercedes McCambridge.
I was going to say the voice of The Exorcist.
And Johnny Guitar by Nicholas Ray, Mercedes McCambridge.
Yeah.
I don't know if she won an Oscar, but she should have. Talk about women. Talk about strong women. Anna Biller, who made The Love Witch, has a list of. She has a list of 75 movies with women. I hope. I was just about to look at it. I hope she includes Stella Dallas and the movie I just mentioned.
I'm a huge fan of Anna Biller and The Love Witch. But listen, before we let you go, I know there's a lot of young people. I know there's a lot of young people and people around the world watching this right now. Is there any words of advice for anybody that wants to pursue a career in filmmaking or a career in the arts that you can give? I mean, you've been here, you've got the longevity, you've done it the way you've wanted to do it. Can you give some words of inspiration to any up and coming filmmakers who want to pursue this crazy business?
Well, I'm sky high on cat tranquilizer, so I don't know how wise I will be. But my suggestion is a young person comes to the crossroad. Do you want to be an artiste or an auteur, as you might say, or do you want the big accolades? And there's nothing wrong with wanting $5 million for being an assistant director, whatever they pay out there, or $30 million to one single actor while the world starves. If you like that world, I think you have to hook up with a vassal of one of the conglomerates, because the market has been totally usurped by a small number of giant international media conglomerates, and the pathways to the public are closed virtually compared to the way they were when we set up Troma. In 1974, there were maybe 30 little studios all doing well, including Roger Corman, with whom I've been friends for over 50 years. And he was a big inspiration. The fact that he could make movies cheaply, or rather inexpensively, you shouldn't say cheap, inexpensively, and profound scripts, good acting, like The Man with the X-Ray Eyes or the Poe trilogy, was a proof that could be done. And so I suggest that you have to decide what you want out of it, and then you should be true to yourself, to thine own self. Be true. Make art, which is in your that comes out of your brain, your heart, and your soul, as best you can. And James Gunn is doing it. Eli Roth is doing this, and Trey Parker is doing it. They are alumni of Troma, and they are making millions and millions of dollars. So you don't have to be a kiss ass necessarily, or you don't have to conspire with the genocidal, sexist dictatorship of China. You don't have to change the text of your writers and your artists to fit a dictator's, which is what all the studios did during World War II. They changed their scripts so they could adapt to Hitler. The only one that didn't, if I read correctly, was Universal. And today, Laemmle in California, who was the descendant of the founder of Universal, Laemmle Theaters is the only chain that plays Troma in Los Angeles. Luckily, they have a huge chain of theaters, so they're very nice to us. And Mutant Blast is where it played in 2 theaters.
Nice.
It did great.
Well, Mr. Kaufman, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for giving up your time, and thank you for inspiring us.
You're the big shot.
No. It was great to speak with you, and everybody, all the fans here at the Mainframe Comic Con. We're so happy to have spoken with you today, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to our fans. I'm on. If you have any further questions, you can go to @Lloyd Kaufman on either Twitter or Instagram. I do that myself. I don't do much on Facebook. I mean, I'm on there, but not much. So check me out on or ask me questions. I answer everything. And I'm looking for my next script. If I find, I know I can put some money together, but it's got to be a one-of-a-kind project, and can be any genre. It doesn't have to be commercial. I've never been interested in making huge amounts of money, although we've gotten lucky. So you all out there who want to be filmmakers, and if anybody has a script that is, I prefer comedy, but anything that's one of a kind.
Well, thank you very much. I'm
Thank
sure
you,
you're going to
Robert.
get inundated.
I hope we get to meet face to face one day. Where are you now?
I'm in Los Angeles. I'm out here in LA.
Well, COVID has sort of hamstrung us. I go out about once a month, so I hope we could have a beverage.
I'd love to meet you, sir.
Good. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thanks very much for being here.
And please thank Mr. Lindsay for including us. It was very, very nice.
Absolutely.
And how lucky was I to go after Kevin Smith? I'm sort of feeding on his what do you call it, roadkill.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Toxie loves you.
I'm a Sergeant Kabuki man, NYPD person.
You know, Stan Lee's favorite Troma movie was Kabuki Man, and he approached Jim Carrey when The Mask was going. He wanted Jim Carrey to play Kabuki Man. Well, I'll let you go. I know.
Play us out. Play us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Chumpcast. I am Smithers with another weekly update on all things pop culture. During these unprecedented times, we try to keep a man in the field, and that man is Mark. Mark, can we get an update?
Thanks, Smithers. I'm here right now in downtown California, just gotten off the 405, and as you can see, it is a ghost town out here. No word yet as to when Batman is gonna save us from this post-apocalyptic... Dude, I told you to leave that word off the f***ing script. What were you thinking?
Thanks for nothing, Mark. Brick, can you save this segment?
Yeah, no. Save the segment? No, 0.
This has been the Chumpcast. We may hate each other, but we love being nerds. Hey, we're live.
Hey.
Great. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Mainframe Comic Con. I'm Ryan here with my good friend Mark, and today we have the privilege of speaking with the hilarious and extremely talented Lamorne Morris. Lamorne, thank you so much for joining us and contributing to a great cause.
How's it going? Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I have to say, I was shocked when I found out that you grew up as a neighbor of mine in Chicago and a fellow Second City student.
Hey, yes, indeed, man. Yes, indeed. What part of the city did you grow up in?
I actually grew up south of the city, moved here 15 years ago. So been here for a while, been in Lincoln Park, all over the place. What about you?
All over. I started on the south side of Chicago, around like 101st and Eggleston. Then about high school years, 14, 15, moved to the West Burbs, DuPage County, Glen Ellen, Wheaton. And then hung out there for a while. Then that's when right when I graduated, I went back to the city, lived in Uptown, started doing Second City, stuff like that.
Very cool. You miss it?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Being on stage is amazing. Being in the city is amazing. Not in the winter, obviously. So I'm very happy to be here in sunny California. But I definitely miss Chicago. I miss the people, my family, my friends. And as far as Second City goes, I just miss being on stage.
Yeah, you made the right choice. We've had snow as recently as about a week ago, so you're doing okay.
You're screwed, bro.
I say that I'm surprised to find that out because we've seen you most recently in Bloodshot, where you sport this spot on British accent. So if I add that to the Denzel impression, I mean, you had me completely thrown for a loop. Is there a trick to developing these impersonations and accents, or does it come naturally to you?
I think it kind of is a little of both. You know, things come natural to you, and then I guess you hone it over the years. I'm always goofing around, mimicking people. When I was a kid, I used to mimic and mock the preacher at church. So whenever he would be up doing his thing, I would always stand up to him and do whatever he was doing, whatever ridiculous waving and jumping around, So I used to do the exact same thing. And then as I got older, I would just do it. I didn't even know I could do a Denzel impression and this is a fun fact. Maybe it's not fun. Maybe you don't care. I'm a huge fan of Jay Farrow. He's a buddy of mine. And I remember him doing the Denzel accent. And then I was like, holy crap, that's good. I wonder if I can do it. So then that's when I started trying it and then mimicking more often than not.
Is there one that you haven't put on screen yet that maybe you're saving for a special occasion?
Oh, there is one. Are you familiar with Shannon Sharp?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
I've been working on it, and you know, I'm working on that one. That was
Okay.
coming. I'm trying to figure out the proper medium to break that one out. I want to have an argument between Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith, and then go back and forth. So that's the new plan while I'm on quarantine.
And you can do a Stephen A. Smith impression too?
I can do both. And,
All right. Just make sure you have that black and mild ready when you're doing the Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
You're good to go. So we talked a little bit about Bloodshot. Was this your first exposure to comic books? Do you have a background in that, or was this kind of like a role that spoke to you?
When I was a kid, me, my cousins, my brother, we loved Marvel, DC, even Valiant. When I remember when I got the role, my cousin then and a buddy, also a childhood buddy, sent me pictures of the comic, and then instantly it came back to me. You know, because it to be fair, back then it was one of the ones that I think we only had Bloodshot. It may have had Harbinger, but I think it was just Bloodshot from the Valiant universe. But you know, I was a big Silver Surfer fan, big Gambit fan. You know, X-Men were more of my Marvel speed, and so yeah, I was very familiar, a little bit involved somewhat, and then this came along, happened to be a dream come true.
That's awesome. I'm a huge X-Men fan. I actually named my dog Remy after Gambit, so there we go.
Oh yeah.
We kind of glossed over this because I was so excited to jump right in, but we like to start our shows with like a mental health check. So how are you holding up? What have you been doing to kill some time and just kind of relaxing or working on upcoming projects?
Oh my goodness. You don't want to check on my mental health. I am nuts right now. No, I've been doing good, man. You've been doing good. You know, we're extremely blessed to just be alive. So, and it's not like our lockdown is completely, you know, stay in your house and board up your windows. I can still go on walks. I can still, you know, about once a week we go to the grocery store. I go hang out in the backyard, play basketball a little bit. So I am, this is actually a bit of it's a terrible way to say it, but it's been a bit of a vacation in a way where I've had time to be at peace with my own thoughts and also create. So I'm working on a bunch of new stuff. A comedy album that I'm working on right now that I'm finalizing to put out. So, you know, you get some time to catch up on reading, catch up on creating, you know, getting weird when it gets dark, you know, normal stuff, man.
That's amazing. The comedy album is kind of a throwback to, I mean, like a retired medium. I mean, did you grow up with a comedy album that you wore out in your CD player or?
Yeah. So there's a few, anything Weird Al was always awesome. The Jerky Boys, love the Jerky Boys. I love all their prank phone calls and you know, and then Lonely Island. Love everything the Lonely Island does. I actually have Andy Samberg on the album, which is great. Commons on the album. So yeah, I grew up listening to just hip hop in general because it's hip hop comedy, a few skits in there, some R&B. So that's the type of music I grew up listening to. And on the comedy side, like I said, you can't go wrong with Weird Al and Lonely Island, those guys. So, yeah. And Chris Rock, they're gonna be No Sex in the Champagne Room is iconic.
Classic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Moving back to Bloodshot a little bit, it was apparent that you got pretty shredded for that role. Can you tell us a little bit about the preparation that went into your role as Wilfred in that movie?
Yeah. So, you know, funny, your whole life as an actor, actually even your whole life as a kid wanting to be these characters, you know, they're all shredded. So they're all, you know, unless it's intentionally like just, you know, some massive like Kingpin or somebody's round and rotund or something like that, but they're usually all pretty shredded. So when I got the call about it, there was some confusion as to where the character would be in that evolution of his body. So I just started working out because I didn't want to get there and then they go, oh, change of plans, you got to be shredded. So I started working out, and funny enough, I didn't have to be shredded. So
really,
I trained, I got in shape, and then even reshoots. We did reshoots about, you know, probably 8 months after we had started shooting. So I looked different when we started shooting. Originally, I was a little bit bigger, and then toned down. Lost a lot of weight, got a lot thinner and more shredded that way, and then came back to do reshoots. So I'm not sure if you pay attention. There are certain moments where the camera starts on me, and I'm a little bit more full-faced than I am when the camera comes back to me. So about 30 pounds of difference.
Wow.
Yeah. So didn't have to. Now it's just a lifestyle situation. Now, hopefully, if we get lucky to do the sequel to it, then hopefully they'll write me some shirtless stuff so I can finally get a girl to like me.
We're here for that.
Definitely. With us all being from Chicago, I assume you're a Bulls fan. Thoughts on the Last Dance documentary that's been playing on ESPN right now? I can recall you going on the record for saying that LeBron is the greatest player of all time. So has this changed your mind at all after watching the first few episodes?
No, because I remember all that stuff. Not so much the college days and the rookie first couple of years in the league stuff, but I remember all the drama, especially around breaking the team up. It's the greatest team ever assembled. That's not even, I don't even think that's close. Like just how dominant they were. So I'm obsessed with that squad. I'm obsessed with that time in basketball. With that being said, King Goat James.
Oh
man,
it's okay. We still love you. That's okay. It's just an opinion. That's fine.
I don't know. There's something about a guy who can do everything. Now Michael Jordan could do everything too. He didn't have to though. And
he didn't have the size that LeBron does.
He didn't have the size that LeBron does, and the strength is obviously in LeBron's his court, but Michael Jordan, I think, was more skilled of a player. He more technically sound. He had his go-to moves. I think, again, with that being said, Michael Jordan was only asked to score, really, while Scottie Pippen was asked to do everything else. And, Scottie Pippen led that team in assists. He was number 2 in scoring. He led him in steals. He led him in every category. He was very, very dominant in running that offense. And if you would ask Michael Jordan to do it, I'm sure that's something he could adapt to, and I think he would be great at it. But that's something we're never really going to see. But I think when you have somebody like LeBron, who not only can do all those other things and lead his team in all those statistical categories, and still find time to have more points than Michael Jordan, I just think that
you're breaking my heart, man. And Michael's got a couple of Defensive Player of the Year trophies that he can show off. So
that's true. That's true. So listen, you're not gonna ever hear me say it's no contest. I mean, up until 2 years ago, I was saying Michael Jordan was the greatest player of all time. But the more I watch LeBron play, the more and how. I mean, players are up here, but for so long. And LeBron's been up here since about his second year in the league. He's just been coasting at the top of the league. He's always in MVP conversations every single year. And he's playing like it without retiring, taking 2 years off, and getting his body back together. I think I'm just saying that counts too. A durability counts.
No doubt. I disagree with you, but I respect the argument.
Regardless, I think we'd all want to see that matchup of them in their prime, one-on-one.
Oh my God.
That would be something to see.
Oh yeah.
So getting away from basketball for a second, the internet tells me that you have a couple of upcoming projects, namely Woke, which I believe is coming to Hulu and is based on the K Chronicles, and Desperados, starring you and Nassim Perdad, who you've worked with on New Girl. Yeah. What can you share with us about these projects?
So Woke, based on the K Chronicles by Keith Knight, who is a sick cartoonist. He's a great artist. This show is on Hulu, and it's about a guy who kind of walks the road in the middle politically, where he's not really. I mean, he knows what's going on around him in society, but it's not his place to comment on it. He likes to draw boring breakfast food, toast and butter. You know what I mean? Like he just happy conversations until one day something happens to him, which opens his mind to the world and to society around him. Meanwhile, while that's happening, his character is actually seeing things. So my character is seeing cartoon characters, he's seeing inanimate objects talk to him and instruct him on what actually is happening. I got Blake Anderson from Workaholics playing a roommate, a guy named T. Murph from Chicago, who's a funny comedian, up and coming. You'll see him. He's absolutely fantastic. We've got Rose McIver from iZombie. We've got Cat Williams, who plays my marker. He's very racist. So he keeps making me draw racist stuff, and I don't want to. Cedric the Entertainer, Tony Hale, Sam Richardson, Nicole Byer, Eddie Griffin, the cast. We got really, really lucky, and it's. I think it's going to be one of those shows that people talk about.
I can't wait.
Yes, and Desperados. So Desperados is. I got you to check it out. It's one of those really cool, fun, funny, charming rom-coms. It's great. It's coming out on Netflix. But it's got some raunchiness to it. So it's a rom-com, but it's definitely got some hints and some notes of Bridesmaids in there. Nassim Pedrad, Anna Camp, Sarah Burns, Heather Graham. It's awesome. Robbie Amell. Yeah, it's a really fun movie. I think that comes out this summer. June, I want to say. June. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you're talking about Hulu and Netflix projects. What have you been streaming to kill time?
Oh my God! To be honest with you, I've been watching a ton of New Girl. No,
we're getting there. Don't worry.
It'd be so funny if I was just sitting there and watching all my own stuff. No, I've been watching one old basketball games on repeat. NBA TV. I've just been binging literally every basketball game that comes on. I'm talking from the 1985 finals all the way up, and then I'm on Succession right now.
Very good show.
It's a lot funnier than I thought it would be.
Kieran Culkin is great in that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That every character on that show has some sort of awkwardness to him that's just like it makes you a bit uneasy. I love that show. End of the Effing World. Have you seen that?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see. Westworld. Been watching that. I started Westworld during the quarantine, and now I'm all caught up. So I like to say I'm in with the in crowd now. So now I can talk about Westworld as opposed to having people ruin it for me everywhere I go. What else am I binging? Anything that's I just watched that. What's that movie? Not Annihilation. The one with Chris Hemsworth. I just watched that one.
Extraction.
Same here.
I think that was a really cool movie. I called a lot of it, but it was still I love Chris Hemsworth, so kind of predictable in some areas, but I still really enjoyed the movie. But anything that pops up on my screen, I'll sit down and watch it for sure.
Okay, well, I got a recommendation for an old NBA game, the Jordan Flu game. Just think about that one. Put it in your bag.
You've probably seen that plenty of times, though.
So, Lamorne, your roots have mostly your roots have mostly been in comedy up to this point, even in more of a serious film like Bloodshot. But do you have any urge to take on more serious roles in the future, or are you more comfortable being funny?
I'm very comfortable being funny, but also I'm comfortable doing both. I definitely, that is the plan, and I had Woke is a bit of that as well. Now Woke is a dark comedy. My character carries a lot of the drama of the show, which was different. You know, you're used to playing a lot. Right? I'm looking at your background, and you're in the New Girl loft. That
nobody wants to see my bad basement. This is way better.
I just remember, the amount of episodes, 150 episodes, something like that, just goofing off, joking around, because it comes so easy to you. But there is something not easy, but that does come natural to me as far as the dramatic side goes as well. When I was shooting the show, I found myself in moments with my two roommates, Blake Anderson and T. Murph, who are two of the funniest people I've ever met. And you have them doing bits and joking, and you have to be in this dark space. That was tough, until, we get into a rhythm, and then it just feels great. You're in a groove. So I definitely want to do more of that. I think the fans will see a lot more of that in some upcoming projects for sure.
Does it get competitive when you're with a group of funny people like that? Do you try to see who can be the funniest?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. T. Murph is a stand-up comic. So T. Murph, all he does is roast people. I'm talking in between takes, during the takes. He'll just comment on your shoes.
Just to roast somebody.
So then I found myself breaking character and just going back at him, and the director has to yell out, "Lamorne, get back in character." Sorry, he started it. That's how it was on Barbershop. When I did Barbershop, it was just, legend after legend. Cedric the Entertainer, Anthony Anderson, J.B. Smoove, Dion Cole, even Ice Cube going back and forth as far as jokes. And in Regina Hall, they were so funny. And in that movie, all their characters, Budkar as well, they're all piling on me at times. And I'm just, Lamorne starts to come out as opposed to the character Gerard, or, I start to come out and I'm like going back and forth. And again, the director will have to, Lamorne, because those people are all legendarily funny. And, instinctually, that's what you want to do, because that's kind of how it all started, especially when you're with your buddies after school, during school, just talking trash to each other. And when you do it in a movie, it doesn't make it any different. You just want to go right back at them.
So I was actually introduced to New Girl by my wife years back, my girlfriend at the time. And I want to thank you for being a part of that show, because it's actually one of the few shows that we could agree upon to watch together and truly enjoy. So thank you for that. But one question we always had is, how the hell do you play true American?
Ooh, let's see if I got some alcohol right here.
Yeah.
Honestly,
need that first, obviously.
It's literally just get drunk. I'll be honest with you. When we shot that day, the first time we broke out that character or that storyline, the script didn't really have directions as far as how the game was played. It just had, nonsensical things. Jump, chug, and they play. And it says, I think the script said they play a drinking game, and because they call it True American. Zoe then started making up rules right there on the spot. She started yelling out stuff, because I'll be honest with you, out of that cast, Zoe's the smartest. Zoe and Hannah, Jake Johnson, Max Refield, Damon Wayans Jr., and myself are all idiots. So we didn't know a damn thing about American history. So we were just going, president, and so we would go, don't be more specific. Like, say president, Obama. She's like old president. So we would then have to start following her lead. And it again, there is the only thing that I think is an actual rule is the floor is lava. I think that's the only thing. So you have to put down pillows and jump from couch to table and just drink. Because when we'll throw up numbers and stuff, they don't mean anything. You're like, this, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, we've tried to play it several times, and we just, like you said, we just end up getting drunk. It's fine.
Yeah. Listen, the mission is accomplished.
With New Girl, there were some great special guest appearances on some of the episodes. Was there any special guests that appeared that you were just really excited to meet?
We got so lucky on that show. So many special guests.
I think a Prince.
I know you've got a Prince impersonation.
I wish. That man barely talked. He was one of the more interesting people I've ever met. I'll probably just say the most interesting person I've ever met. When he showed up, he had heels on about this thick. They were clear. They had lights in them. And he had like a cane with like a crystal ball on the top that
That's amazing.
also had lights in it. And he showed up with like 30 people, all dressed like Captain Crunch. They all had, their zippers and their tassels and the glitter and stuff. And they were like, there were some of the coolest, out there people that I had met. And Prince, when he showed up, he was so chill and so quiet. And he didn't raise his voice at all. He would just say something, and everyone on the set would stop and go, "Did he say something? Did he speak?" And then they would all, wonder, if they can get a glimpse or just to hear a note of his voice to see what he's talking about. He was awesome. He decorated our set. He picked out our wardrobe. He made sure this looked like a Prince episode, and it worked. He even controlled which celebrities were invited to this party, so maybe we had people cast on the show, and maybe he showed up and was like, they would never be invited to a Prince party, and then maybe they didn't make the cut, like that's how he was. And it was awesome. It was awesome to see that everyone just said, okay, whatever you want. Yeah. He's a huge New Girl fan, which was so strange to me. I didn't know. Apparently he'd only watched The News and New Girl. And those were the shows that he did. Yeah.
Eclectic.
Oh, yeah. I would say Justin Long. I want to go back to that. Justin Long he's up there with my favorite characters, just because he pretty much taught me how to be on TV. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew commercials and, stage and, hosting and things like that. But, New Girl was my favorite, my first show. And so when he came on the show, his energy was so big, and he was such a daring actor where he didn't let embarrassment bother him. He didn't let any of these things get to him. He would just try everything, and he would try it with 100% of everything he had, where he would fall off of stuff, doors in his face. He would do bits in the middle of scenes, and he helped form how we performed on that show going forward. And so he's definitely somebody that not only was I excited about seeing, but excited to work with, and definitely helped the trajectory of my career for sure.
Very cool.
All right, so we're running low on time here. We got about 60 seconds left, but I want to ask you this. When you run into Vin Diesel on set, does your voice naturally drop a few octaves before you talk to him?
A little bit. It actually has to, because otherwise he's just over-statusing you, and it's all part of his game, his sick, twisted, I'm more powerful and dominant than you are game that he plays. So absolutely, when he shows up, you got to go, you absolutely have to. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Lamorne, thank you so much for joining us. I want to give you one chance to plug any of your upcoming projects or where people can find you on social media.
Yes. So Instagram at Lamorne, Lamorne, Lamorne Morris on Twitter. I have the Lamorning After Pill. It's coming soon. It's my comedy album. So make sure y'all check that out when it drops within the next couple of weeks. That's it, man. Woke coming soon. Desperados coming soon. So please stay tuned.
Can't wait. Lamorne, thank you so much for your time. You've been awesome, and stay safe out there.
Great chat.
Available now from Cold War Fight Your Friends, the fun and fast card dueling game featuring incredible characters from your favorite indie comics. From a huge cast of characters, choose a crew of 10 fighters and rumble with your buddy across 4 action-packed rounds of magic, muscle, and mayhem. Fight Your Friends. All you need is 10 cards, 10 minutes, and 1 friend.
Hello, hello. Perry Nemiroff here from Collider, and it's a really big thrill and honor to be part of Mainframe Comic Con right now, an organization that's putting something on right now for a really good cause. So check out the main site if you haven't already to see how you can donate to some of the organizations that they're supporting. Right now, it is all about putting the spotlight on the comic Count Crowley, but not even just that, because some of you out there might know that the writer behind Count Crowley is none other than David Dastmalchian. And of course, he is someone who has been taking over Hollywood for quite a few years now, ever since he appeared in The Dark Knight. And I am so excited to welcome him to Mainframe Comic Con right now. I'm so happy you dressed the part. This is the greatest.
Hi, Perry. Hi, everybody in Mainframe. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is such an awesome opportunity. Thanks, Mainframe, for doing this. And to all my friends out there who I've never met in person, we'll put this as a rain check till the convention we can actually meet. But this is as close as we get now. So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this. We're going to welcome out your full Count Crowley team very, very soon, but you have been kind enough to amuse me with some movie questions because, like I said before, you got a bunch of very, very exciting things coming up, and this is not going to come as a surprise whatsoever, but the first one I have to ask you about is Dune. Hands down, one of the most highly anticipated movies coming out. You've had a lot of experience working with Denis, but Dune is a different beast. So over the course of working on that together, is there anything that you've learned about him as a filmmaker that's really wowed you?
Over the 3 films that I've gotten to do with Denis, Prisoners, Blade Runner 2049, and now Dune, I would just say that he has always been able to retain that childlike sense of wonder and mystery that he feels towards the storytelling process, and he brings it every single day of work. Being at work with him is like going to a truly magical place. He doesn't ever rest on his laurels. He never takes a moment to sit down. He's constantly so engaged in the process and excited by it. And his vision for this film is something I believe he's been building since he was a very young man. It's a book that he was raised on. Obviously, it's one of the greatest pieces of science fiction literature ever achieved by Frank Herbert, and I by anybody, but Frank Herbert's novel. And so Denis' passion for getting it to the film the way he has always dreamed, it was so inspiring to watch. And I'm so lucky I got to be a part of the world he's building.
Oh, I can't wait to see the finished product. One question I do have that somewhat pertains to Blade Runner 2049 is, a lot of folks out there, while excited, are concerned because Blade Runner 2049 comes out. It's a great movie that deserves all the eyes in the world, and then it didn't do as well. So what would you say to folks that are maybe worrying that Dune is going to meet the same fate? What is it about this new interpretation of Dune that is sure to kind of capture the imagination of the widest possible audience out there?
I believe that if what you love about going to the cinema, what you love about movies is the experience of being transported to a place that you never had even imagined before, or someplace you'd only probably dreamt of in your greatest fascinations of science fiction or movie achievement, then this is the film that you want to go and get the popcorn and sit down. And I can't wait till that time when we're all able to sit in a dark theater in a space together again, that reverent, sacred place where we can come together as a community, no matter our differences, and get transported to another place. And if that place happens to be Arrakis, and it happens to be from the brilliant mind of Denis Villeneuve, then you're in for a treat. You've never seen anything like this before. And I've only seen a tiny sliver of what he's concocting here. And I can tell you it's going to literally erupt your mind.
I like that promise, and I believe in it. I can't wait. And one other project I wanted to ask you about, because I can't not ask you about the MCU, but in particular, I wanted to know if you've had your experience working on the What If series yet, because I believe it would mark your first voice acting role if you're a part of it, and if you've recorded anything. So what was that like?
I can't say much, but I can tell you that I have contributed some work to the project, that it is so cool. I grew up, as many of you know, and I'm still an avid comic book collector, and the concept of What If has always been something that really appealed to me as a reader. And so getting to see that idea brought to life is going to be something I can't wait. I haven't actually gotten to see anything yet, but what I've been told and what's been described to me is just going to be so cool. And I don't think there's ever been anything honestly quite like it before. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm all for any brand out there kind of really going for it with the creative opportunities that, you know, some twists and turns in their story and the pillars that make that franchise special hold. And I think the what if idea is a brilliant way to approach that there. All right, let's talk Count Crowley now. And let's bring out the rest of your team too. We have so many more folks from the Count Crowley crew here with us. I see everybody here. We have Lucas Kettner, the artist behind it. We have editor Megan Walker and also colorist Lauren Affey. Lauren, did I get your last name?
Yeah, that's good.
Wanted to make sure. Now that I welcomed you guys, I do have to toss it back to David very quickly because I do want to know a little bit about the genesis of the idea, but in particular, every single different storytelling medium has something different to offer. But I guess what itch does creating a comic scratch for you that maybe you can't get through television or film?
Sure, and I just have to say I'm having kind of an emotional moment seeing all my friends together in one place. I really miss you guys, and thank you. There's so many itches that I can't scratch as a screenwriter, as a playwright that I've tried to achieve in my life as a storyteller. So when I had the opportunity to create and tell this story, especially with Dark Horse, you know, it was such an honor. I've always had this, you know, love affair and fascination with the concept of horror hosts, and I love classic monsters, and I love the idea behind, you know, how monsters can permeate our society, both in the good and the bad, and how there's a little bit of monster inside all of us. And so as this started to come together, and, you know, decades of dreaming about an idea, which I'd always just hoped I could see achieved in some way, either through television or film, and this comic book came to life. I have so many experiences that I could spend hours and hours talking to everybody who's listening today about, but the first time that I opened an email with an attachment, Megan, our incredible editor, had reached out to Lucas and told him about the book, and I believe sent him a script, or at least an outline, and he sent back these images. And if you can imagine, you know, thinking and dreaming about a character for so many years, and then you're looking at her and she's looking back at you, and she doesn't only look incredible and perfect and amazing, but she looks more incredible, more perfect, and more amazing than you would even imagine. That has been what this experience has been like every single step of the way. Every color pass that I get, every pencils that I get, every time I get new ideas and input from my editor, it's like that. So it's a dream, you guys. It's truly a dream.
I'm so glad you said that. Megan, can you talk a little bit about the process from your perspective? Specifically, what exactly happens when you get David's script in your hands? Is that something you have to seek out, or is that something that comes to you and then you have to develop the team?
So David and I started, I met with him right at the beginning of the project, and we kind of just talked about everything, his passion for it, his ideas for it. We started with an outlining the whole series. And then I just let him go on scripts, and he sent me a full script, and we just kind of went back and forth with each other for a while. We both live in Los Angeles, so we had the opportunity to meet in person over breakfast and kind of hash out ideas together, which was doesn't always happen in comics since we don't always live in the same place as our creators, but it worked out that way and it was great. And him and I just kind of went back and forth on scripts for a while until we had it perfect. I used to live in Portland, so that's how I knew of Lucas. He was from the same area, so I knew of him, and I knew he would be a perfect fit on this. So I recommended him to David, and once we got the first script kind of locked down to a point where we were both very happy with it, I sent it off to Lucas and asked if he wanted to come on board. So he started working on issue 1 while David and I dove into the rest of the series together.
So in the development stage of the story, what would you guys say required the most fine-tuning? Where could you see the biggest difference from original outline and finished product?
Yeah, David was coming from a screenplay writing background into the comics world. So while it's very similar, screenplays are very similar to comic scripts, there are a few key differences. So we had to expand on just really detailing the world and making it as vivid in the script as possible to make Lucas's job easier, where he can just read it and just go and draw without having to fill in the holes. And so I just kept pushing David to just add more detail and just like, if you think you're saying too much, you're still not. Just keep talking and keep writing on the script. So that was kind of the biggest thing we worked on. But honestly, David had a great knack for writing. He had a screenplay background, obviously. He's a great writer. So it was pretty easy. It's just adding detail to the world to make Lucas's and Lauren's job much easier so they can just dive in and get to work.
So now specifically with Lauren and Lucas, what was it about their previous work that you had seen, Megan, that made you say they are the right fit for Count Crowley?
For Lucas specifically, I'd seen some stuff of his, some horror specific stuff. And I knew David wanted to hit this style of the old horror comics of the past. And that was something I was really interested in too. We both share a love of the classic monster movies, which is a very specific style to hit. So it wasn't gonna just be able to be any artist that we could find to do this. And Lucas had art samples on his portfolio and his website that had showed the style, this very specific old classic horror monster style. And I don't think we could have found a better person to be on this comic. There you go, David's showing it. Lucas was perfect for this. I don't know that I could have found anyone else to suggest to him for this. And it was just a match made in heaven. When it came to Lauren's work, I've worked with Lauren before in the past. She's worked a lot with Dark Horse in the past. So I had a huge sample of her coloring styles to show David. I just really love Lauren's work. She's one of my go-to colorists for almost all of my projects. I work with her on quite a few. So she has a broad range, and some colorists stick to a specific palette, stick to a specific style, but Lauren is very unique in that she's got a broad range and a broad variety, and she's also great at just adapting to different styles. So whatever you need her to do, she'll just go for it and do it for you, which has worked out fantastically, because we'll just come back with weird notes like, this needs to be a little bit darker. We want it to be more like 9 o'clock at night versus 7:30 at night. And Lauren just nails it. I mean, that's a very weird note to give a colorist, but Lauren nails it every time. So this really is a dream team.
Lauren, where did your ability to adapt come in handy most? Were there any specific, types of atmospheres or locations that you're not particularly used to that challenged you more here?
I think it's more on like working on and building on skills I had previously built up working at other comics. One of the first comics I ever worked on was Five Ghosts, and that's also in that same kind of wheelhouse of like horror, adventure, very old style, like throwback comics. So I already kind of had that skill set in place, but hadn't really revisited it in a very long time. So I was really excited to go in and take another look at it, another pass, and to apply skills that I had learned from doing other books to Count Crowley. And yeah.
And Lucas, I'm going to pose a similar question I just asked to Megan and David to you. As far as your work goes, what would you say is the biggest difference in the character design from your original sketches to what we get in the final book?
Oh, different shoes. I think it was just the shoes.
Seriously, what was with the shoes?
Perry, it was so perfect. I'm telling you, I opened that email and I cried. He saw her in his heart, in his mind, in his vision, and it was all I dreamed of. Sorry, Lucas, I don't want to jump on your answer.
No. The thing is your description was so good, and I had so many great examples of what you had in mind, what you didn't have in mind, and just the whole kind of DIY look of the costume and the character. It's it's got to be a costume that looks like was thrown together in 45 minutes. And I mean, it's, she's great at throwing together her own costume. Just one of the many things that she doesn't know that she's amazing at. But it was kind of easy to visualize. And I think that was really thanks to the strength of the writing and the just the concepting that David did with the character, and the refinement that Megan went through with the editorial process. So
How about the cast of characters around her? Was there anyone in particular where the style took a little more massaging than having nailed it like that?
maybe Vincent Freitz, because I went off on a tangent a little bit during the sketching phase, and kind of like but I mean it wasn't too far off, but it came back to just the crotchety.
Really, like it was some smaller details and stuff, but it's that simpatico, it's that kindred kind of thing that you pray for when you enter any kind of collaborative process. And because this is the first time I've engaged in a journey this intensive as being a writer with and any attempt at writing a comic book, it just is like 1,000 across the board. I got so lucky, you guys. And for anybody who has read or is going to read Count Crowley, our trade paperback's coming out soon, by the way, everyone who's watching. I just think it's really important for you guys to know and understand that, like, the fleshing out of the world that exists around these characters and the detail, I did, of course, and with Megan's encouragement, try to implement as much specificity as you could possibly get, because that way it also helps the conversation. If I'm really super specific about a particular frame, then we can go even further with it, as opposed to having to spend time getting there. But as much specificity as I did bring to the page, there are so many flourishes. There's so much wonder. The first time that you see Jerry break into her predecessor's office, when you see her go into the original Count Crowley's like home library, the detail work in that room, the first time she goes to visit Vincent Freitz at the nursing home, and she goes into his residential room, and you see, it's like, it's a great book for reading and rereading. And I don't just say it because it's my own. I really think you can go back and you can catch so many little details. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I already caught myself doing that over and over the past couple of days. And as a genre lover, and in particular, the type of genre you guys are capturing here, you do it very, very successfully. And it's really nice to be enveloped in a world like that. Lucas, I wanted to go back to you just in terms of just the tools that you use in general as an artist and how adaptable you have to be from story to story. Is there any particular, like tool or technique you had to use on Count Crowley that you've never had to try before?
Oh man. I think maybe I'd have to probably the covers, because there's a few of the covers that are painted, and I had done that kind of stuff before, and I was a little afraid to try to do it because I had never actually had like a fully painted thing that I was just like, yep, nailed it. But I ended up being really happy with that first issue cover. And so that was something that, I think I probably took like 3 tries at it. I tried to do it on like illustration board, and like I tried to do it with watercolor. And then I finally was just like, I'll just do it digitally. And it turned out pretty okay.
It is stunning, not just pretty okay. I'm going to let our viewers know that we are going to take some live questions right now, so start sending them in. But I do have one more for you, David. Just as a first-time comic writer right now, what would you say to somebody else out there who is about to write their own for the very first time and go through this whole process? What one piece of advice could make all the difference for them?
God, or whatever you want to call it, lives in the details. And therefore, all these documents that I'd spent the years dreaming about this comic book or dreaming about telling this story came so in handy for me. And that included things like all these different character pastiches where I would do, Pinterest boards of imagery of different characters that I thought I wanted to be inspirations, color tone inspirations, but also like I created my own fake Wikipedia page for the town in which the story takes place. And that helped me when I'm thinking about the landscape and where this graveyard might be for a future episode, etc. So just flesh out all of that detail. Obviously, your scripts are where you're driving to and where you're going to land, but the more work you have, free time in your day, you can always find that extra hour to really think about, like, oh, what is this supporting character's backstory? Because if you write it and you have a document that you've thought about it, when you arrive at a certain challenge, especially when you're trying to communicate something to your team, it's so helpful, you guys. Those tools came so in handy for me.
All right, we got a super chat right now from Joshua Palace, who says, David, huge fan. How was it like acting on such an awe-inspiring looking set for Blade Runner 2049, and I'm sure the upcoming Dune? Thank you for you.
Thank you. Being on the set of Blade Runner 2049 was insane for me. I'm such a huge fan of the original film, and then when Denis invited me to be a part of the sequel, I was just flabbergasted. And it was a brief stint, but I died a beautiful death. Spoiler alert! And getting to be filmed again by the great Roger Deakins and directed by Denis, and working with the scene partner is incredible, as all the different scene partners that I got to work with. But I think of Sylvia Hoeks, who is just incredible in that film. It was a gift. She's a badass. She's somebody maybe we should consider when we make the film version of Count Crowley. She kind of got a Jerry Bartman-esque quality to her. By the way, I just want to say, everyone who's watching, these pins.
Oh, no, I don't have mine.
Who buys our trade coming out and posts a picture of themselves with it. The first 50 of those I see, I'm going to send these limited edition pins that my wife had made for me as a celebration for finishing our volume 1. So first 50 people who get that trade and take a picture of themselves with it, I will personally send you one of these pins.
Get on it. The look of that character is too perfect for the art in the book, things like pins, and I mean, really Halloween costumes too. It's just like a wonderful creative opportunity right there. So bringing back the conversation to Denis' work, I would highly recommend everybody take this time to binge all of his films right now. But I don't often get to talk to comic creators about movies. So Lauren, Lucas, and Megan, what are you all binge watching right now while we're stuck at home? Are you guys into genre as well?
Ooh,
Anybody want to go first?
Oh no, I have to think about mine. Yeah.
I'm finding a bunch of like old weird stuff, like the old Cadfael show, like the Sherlock Holmes monk guy. I love it. It's so great. The Derek Jacobi.
I've been doing a lot of audiobooks and diving into that classic detective fiction. Really feeling that lately.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just recently dived into my Blu-ray collection of the Universal monster movies. I decided to give that a rewatch at night when it gets nice and dark and spooky. So I've watched everything at this point after 40 some days of being stuck inside. But that's my new go-to at night, is to just rewatch the Universal monsters.
It's a pretty good go-to to have.
It is,
David,
yeah.
How about you? What are you doing to not necessarily pass the time, but make the most of it?
My wife and I flew through The Kingdom, which is fantastic on Netflix, the zombie series, the Korean show. It's really great. And then I'm watching. I'm really fascinated right now with Anton LaVey and Jane Mansfield and the relationship between them. I'm actually writing something about them. So I've been watching a lot of classic Jane Mansfield when I have my nights to binge. And there's so many great documentaries and films and interviews with Anton. So that's been really, really interesting.
So I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but you did kind of bring up the potential for a live action rendition of this character. Has that been something that you have seriously explored at all? Because this world it truly does feel cinematic and worthy of screen time to me.
Thank you. I will say that that has been a very ongoing and exciting conversation. There are some really cool seeds that have been planted over the past couple of years in regards to this, because this, even though Count Crowley just came out in October, it's a long process to get to that first time that a comic is released in the shelves. And by the way, everyone who's watching, we will get comics back in shelves again, and I want you to, if you can, continue to try and refill your pull list at your local comic shop. Definitely talk to them about how you can safely pick up your orders. We will get back to that moment where we'll get to walk back in a shop and buy them. But the vision that I see, there's some really wonderfully supportive people behind me, including Peter Lenkov and Ashley Dazan and all the incredible people at Dark Horse who see this world growing and expanding as far as the fans demand. So I believe that the future is only bright.
Has there been any particular fan response to the material that you've released thus far that surprised you? Any particular, a character element, or maybe just, one of the side characters that people are really sparking to?
One thing that has been really interesting, and Megan and Lucas, I don't think, Lauren, you've heard me cry about this as much. I made an error in that popped up very subtly in the single issues. It won't be in the trade paperback, but it came out, and it was written. The error was written in a way that you could logically explain it. So it always kind of, I think, made sense to Megan and Lucas, and nobody really questioned it. But to me, it was a really kind of a big gaffe on my part, and nobody, and I mean almost nobody, caught it. I got one inbox message from a reader who was like, and I'm not going to say what it is, by the way. There's one person who, and another person, the incredible Margot Robbie, who just is such an awesome person, but she happens to love the comic, and she said to me, "Oh my God, I loved issue blank. I was just wondering what was blank," and I had to be like, so far as I know, 2 people have flagged that.
Huh. Well, now you know what I'm going to be doing after this. I kind of
now everyone's going to look for it.
I like detective work. It sounds right up my alley.
It was absolutely on purpose.
Seriously, just call it an Easter egg at this point and
That's
make
right.
it part of the material. Lauren and Lucas, I also wanted to ask you guys a little bit about just the tools you use and how they're evolving right now. Because, I mean, to be frank with you guys, I don't know the ins and outs of creating comics, and I only loosely understand the divide between digital versus physical tools to create the work that you guys complete. So is there anything on the horizon that really excites you that's going to give you more range than you've ever had before?
Oh, you can go first, Lucas. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm working on a 10-year-old computer, so replacing that soon is gonna that's gonna be great because there's gonna be no lag while I'm drawing or anything like that.
Lucas,
so
I'm sorry.
nice. But I did I traded a few months ago. I traded an illustration for an iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil and stuff, and that thing has been really great to work on.
Yeah, I was about to say
it feels.
Yeah, no, sorry. The Pro is in terms of coloring and stuff like that. As soon as Photoshop gets on there, that's game over. I can do lots of things elsewhere other than in my office, which would be great. No, it's a great tool. Yeah.
Lauren, how much does the tools and techniques that Lucas uses affect what you have to do? If he chooses to approach something with a certain style or medium or technique, do you have to then adapt to that format?
All the time. Most of the time, Lucas is very consistent. So there's not a whole lot adapting going. He doesn't throw a curveball at me on page 12 that I have to be well, how do I make that work? No, he's very consistent, so it's not like that. But of course, a colorist job is always to look at a piece of art and say, how can I make this the best it can be, and to draw attention to, first of all, the storytelling going on. How can I enhance that, and also to continue to praise Lucas. Lucas makes it so easy. His storytelling is so clear and economical, and I can just focus on mood and atmosphere, which is just a colorist's dream, really. It's not so much of how can I fix this to make the storytelling work? It's more of a question, a gift on current color that I can be how can I make this the best it can possibly be?
I'll open this up to all 4 of you, but I don't know. It seems like you guys have a pretty seamless process together and really lucked out in terms of finding each other. So is there anything other creators can do out there to make sure that they all unite and have a singular vision, quite like you guys have?
Yes, have an amazing editor.
Yeah.
So I guess
that's
probably
first and
my
foremost.
question to you, Megan. What is the trick? What is the secret?
It's just finding a great group of people that not only work great at their individual jobs, but then work well cohesively, like you said, as a team. And it doesn't always happen, and it doesn't always need to happen also, because we all work so individually that we don't necessarily need to come together like this. But when it does, when a team like this does come together so well and they work so well together, you can tell. It just adds an extra layer of quality onto a comic that you can just tell that everyone's working together so seamlessly and perfect. And I honestly, it's these guys, it's not me. I just connected them all together, but they all are at the top of their game on this comic, and they all knock it out of the park every time I send them work. So I just got lucky in being able to put together a group of people that are like pros at what they do. So
if you guys can't tell, I get very giddy when I hear about just collaborators coming together so seamlessly and making something so cool that I really do think everybody out there is going to enjoy. So thank you guys so much for joining us at Mainframe Comic Con today. And to everybody out there, do not miss Count Crowley. Please check it out and stay tuned because we're going to have so much more from Mainframe Comic Con right after we hear from our friends and sponsors.
What's up, everyone? So this guy just came to my house and he's like, hey, I'll trade you an Amazing Spider-Man number 121 for all your toilet paper, all your food, and your Nintendo Switch. This Corona stuff is getting crazy. I swear to God, I'm following him right now to make sure he doesn't pester anyone else. He went down that way, to the right, by the railroad tracks. Yeah, this is getting crazy.
Hey guys, Chuck here from the YouTube show Chuckload of Comics. As we are now queuing up the next amazing celebrity guest, I just want to remind you guys, Mainframe Comic Con is a 100% for charity telethon. So take a second, head on over to mainframecomiccon.com, click that donate button. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to the American Red Cross COVID-19 Relief Fund and the Hero Initiative. So help us, help others by generously donating what you can at mainframecomiccon.com. And for more fun, check out Chuckload of Comics every single Sunday on YouTube for a breakdown of all the geeky headlines going on every single week in the world of fandom. So YouTube, Chuckload of Comics, and we hope you continue to enjoy all the fun, free action here at Mainframe Comic Con, guys. Thanks for watching. We hope you stick around all weekend long.
What's up, guys? It's Perry. I'm still here. And I'm with Catrin. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Catrin Figures.
Catrin Figures. Hello, hello. It's very nice to meet you over the interwebs right now. And yet again, in case you're just joining us now, it's Mainframe Comic Con, and this is a wonderful event being put on for a very, very good cause where we have the opportunity to talk to a whole bunch of incredible people. And I will say this next one, a major bucket list item right here. I have so much respect for this individual, and he has most certainly contributed to shaping me as the horror lover I have become. So let's please welcome Kane Hodder to Mainframe Comic Con.
Hey guys.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good. Sorry about the shitty background, but I had to move where I was going to do this from because it was breaking up too much when I was watching the previous panel. So it doesn't look very pretty, but I'm here.
Connection is first and foremost. And actually, first and foremost is us seeing your face right now. So you nailed that. You're in good shape.
And what do you think about the porn stash I got going?
You know, I think I saw you post that on Twitter and Instagram or something. And I feel like, you know, switching up the facial hair is the definition of embracing quarantine life. So you're rocking it.
You're definitely starting to rule the COVID look, you know, the facial hair. I mean, I'm seeing more and more of the men throughout this con just showing off the varying stages of the facial hair. And 100%, I think you're rocking it.
Approval all around.
You know, the good thing is if you don't think it looks any good, nobody's going to see it anyway, other than things like this, because you can't go out anywhere.
Yeah. But don't worry. Even if you do go to the grocery store with that, I promise it will be embraced. So I wanted to kind of just, I guess, go back to the very beginning for you with the Jason Voorhees character and just ask, how do you land a role like that? Was that a situation where the character was brought to you, or do you have to do any kind of traditional auditioning or pitching to prove yourself for that role?
Well, there was no auditioning whatsoever. And there's two single words that for the reason that I was ever in the position to play Jason. And those two words are John Buechler. I worked with him on a movie called Prison in 1986 with Rennie Harlan. You guys maybe have heard this story, but who's ever watching, but I'll try and make it brief. And I was the stunt coordinator doing all the stunts on the movie Prison. And also at the end, John said, have you ever worn prosthetics? And I said, well, a little bit, but he said he wanted me to play the character called Forsyth at the end of the movie, full body suit, all kinds of facial prosthetics, lenses, dentures, and everything. And I did it. I think I only had to do it for 2 days, but he enjoyed how I worked in it, because it's a difficult thing to perform with all that shit glued on you. So he liked what I did and what I brought to that character, even as briefly as it was on screen, so that when he was hired to direct the next Friday the 13th movie, he was insistent that I play the character. And of course they had hesitation, because here, first 6 movies was a different guy every time. Nobody ever really did something to where the next guy said, I want to use him again. So I was just one of, 7 guys once I got the role that had played the character. So he fought and fought and fought for me, because CJ had done a good job in part 6, I thought. I had followed all the movies, previous to those, and John just insisted that I do it. And what I had working in my favor was that Jason had to do so many stunts this time, by far the most in any of the movies, for Jason to do the stunts, because she had the mental powers to make things happen. So that helped me also, the fact that John could say, look, he's going to do the character out throughout the movie, so the performance will be consistent. When you have an actor playing a role and then a stunt double doing a lot of stuff, you can tell it's not the same person. At least I can. And so that helped me too, that they knew it had to be a stunt person this time, and CJ wasn't qualified to do all those stunts that I had to do, being on fire and all that stuff. So that's how it happened. I said it would be brief, but I guess it wasn't.
Well, it's a worthwhile story to tell, because the special thing about what you did with Jason is I truly think you made the role your own, more so than anyone we've had in Friday the 13th history. So at what point in that process did you realize you had real creative input and you could shape this previously iconic established character and make him something special that feels truly you?
And you made a good point. Here is, it's one thing to originate a character. You feel like you can have all kinds of your own control and input and everything, because you're the first person to play it. But when you're the 7th person to play a character, technically, then I don't think you can just ignore the past performances. I tried to see what I liked that previous guys did, maybe incorporate a little bit of that, then add my own ideas to it, like the breathing thing, and just to make it my own, so that when you watch the movie, you could tell that was me. That I just wanted to make it different, but not disrespect the previous actors by saying, they didn't matter, because they did.
What was it like jumping from an experience like playing Jason to then playing a character that you did create from scratch to a degree in Victor Crowley? Were you just ready to kind of, run wild with Adam, with the possibilities?
Yeah, that's a perfect description of it. That as much fun as it was to play Jason, and I did still have a lot of creative input. When you play a character like Victor from the beginning and incorporating Adam's ideas and then, adding my own flavor to it, it was just as much, if not more rewarding, because now this is something I've created, basically, not by myself, but I've kind of created the image of the character. So
I'm curious to get your opinion on this, because having played Jason, having been a major part in creating a character like Victor, why aren't we getting very many new slashers to join the ranks of, let's say, a Freddy, a Jason, a Victor Crowley? What's going on in the horror industry right now that you think isn't kind of suiting that style of creation anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, because there are very creative characters that have come up, and I really think it's partially due to timing, where the audience needs to be ready for another, for lack of a better term, iconic horror character. And, you know, I don't know if it'll ever really happen again, because audiences get more sophisticated and, you know, want more than just a mindless, you know, predictable killer. And you know, tastes change and stuff. So I don't know if it'll ever really happen again. And I just feel like, you know, everybody knows I feel honored to have contributed to something that, you know, younger people that I meet now equate Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, and even Leatherface to, you know, the classic monsters: Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon. And if that's how some people think, that you have to know that's a huge honor, because those are, you know, historic characters. So if 100 years from now people still know the character of Jason, that'll be pretty cool.
I would be shocked if that wasn't the case. So you have so many unforgettable kills in all of your movies. I mean, obviously, you know, the sleeping bag, the jaw ripping comes to mind immediately, always, whenever I hear your name. But
of course,
is there any underappreciated kill that you've been a part of that you wish got even more love and that you're really proud of?
Wow, that's a good question that I don't know if I've really been asked in that way before. It's interesting that, because there are so many kills, and I still maintain, I don't think anybody can prove me wrong, but I still maintain that I have murdered more people on film than any actor in history. Really, because, you know, 4 Friday movies, 4 Victor movies, and, you know, Ed Gein and BTK, and multiple murders. And I say murders because, you know, if you gun somebody down with an automatic weapon, that's easy. You have to do it one at a time. I have so many of them. And, you know, I can't really think of something that pops into my mind where it was underappreciated. But what does happen is when we'll shoot a kill, sometimes I'll think, oh God, that's not going to be very good. And, you know, that looks kind of cheesy. And then I see it on screen and I'm like, wow, you know, that looks pretty good. So it's hard to really know how something is going to look on film just because you're there doing it live. But in general, my favorite Friday movie I did was Part 7, as you know. And that entire film was disappointing to me because every single kill was completely censored. And it was just the timing at that part, you know, that point in history, people weren't wanting to see the graphic stuff. And so many of the kills were so amazing. I would see them in dailies and think, man, that is just incredible because of the work Buechler and his guys and girls did. So in general, that entire movie was disappointing from that respect as far as the kills go.
Oh, I can understand that. I can't help but to always want to see more, which I think suits your style quite a bit there.
And let me just ask you, when something is so over the top, graphic, ridiculously graphic, it's almost like not even disturbing to me, because it's more like, and the example is the Hatchet movies. The blood spraying and this stuff is so ridiculous that you don't take it seriously. So it's not a disturbing thing. And that's why I think sometimes when you tone it down because you think that's what the audience wants, it's almost more disturbing than if you had gone all the way with it. So
it definitely can happen, because sometimes it's your mind that, you know, goes out of control and starts to envision things that are probably far worse than what would have been there to begin with.
Right.
So I know we have limited time with you today. So if there are any questions for Kane out there, they will pop up on the screen and I will pass them along to him. While we wait for everyone to come in with questions, I did want to ask you a little bit about Freddy versus Jason, because one of my absolute favorite parts, to be frank, about your story is just how many bumps in the road you've overcome. And with that in particular, I did want to know, what was the point where you realized like you were fully able to move on from that role being passed on to someone else? What was the game changer for you?
Yeah. Well, certainly, you know, as you already stated, that was a pretty devastating time in my career because, and, you know, you have to understand that it isn't just because I was replaced. That happens. That's Hollywood. But I was replaced after being told I was doing the movie. So that is way worse. When I have a meeting with an executive at New Line and she gives me the script and says, we're finally doing this movie, I pretty much thought it was my job. And then in the intervening weeks, I started getting bad vibes, no phone calls returned, stuff like that. And then finally told, well, we're going with somebody else. That's why it was so much worse. If it had just been from the beginning, they were going with somebody else, still I would have been bothered by it, but not nearly as much. So that, as you alluded to, that feeling lasted for quite a while, the bitterness and the disappointment and stuff, because yeah, I've been saying this a little bit recently and people roll their eyes, but I feel like I was born to play Jason, really. I mean, it just felt always so natural. Not that I'm necessarily violent person. Well, I guess I am, but not that I'm overly violent. But I just felt like it was a role that I really was meant to play. So because of the disappointment of that, it did linger for a while. And the big turnaround was Adam Green saying, look, I have a character that's similar, but better in some ways. And I'd like you to do it. So that helped bring me out of that post-Jason funk and get back to loving those kind of roles.
I'm kind of convinced that you came back stronger than ever too, because when you look at your resume when that happened and you look at what immediately came after it, I don't know, you showed off more range than ever. So sometimes setbacks can have beneficial results.
Oh yes, definitely, because I've never been trained as an actor. I, wanted to do stunts, and that's all I ever thought I would do. If I had a successful stunt career, I would have been happy, and I did. Then this happened, and everything changed, and it was something that you definitely grow from. But when I was starting to get the opportunities to play roles that showed other sides of me, I welcomed it, because I always thought I could convincingly be emotional on camera, because that's not easy to do, and it's funny when you talk to fans and stuff and they say you're just talking, say, about an emotional scene or a stunt even. They'll say, I think I could have done that. And I'm like, well, that's possible, but could you have done it over and over the same day? Sure, you can get yourself to that emotional point once, but can you do it 8 times if necessary, for different takes, for different angles? And with stunts too. Sometimes whenever you see a stunt that you've performed, you see it once, but you don't have any idea how many takes that stunt person had to perform that dangerous stunt. Mm-hmm. So that part of it, I guess, and you can't expect people to really know that, but it's just a different side of the whole business.
So while we were chatting, I did see a question pop up from someone named Matthew Woods, who wants to know if there's any horror movie out there that's really scared you.
Now, Matthew, listen to me. Do you think anything scares me? No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I wish I could say that there was a movie that scared me, but I can't think of one. I've had movies that I leave the theater and feel, wow, that was effective, but I can't really say that it scared me. And the biggest one of those would be The Exorcist, because I saw it when it was first out in the theaters. Most of our community cannot say that they went to the theater to see The Exorcist on opening weekend, when all the hype was in the news about people getting possessed in the theater and throwing up and stuff like that. So that had the biggest effect, but I really can't say that anything scared me, because I guess because I know it's a film and it's a story, I don't know.
So I think we've hit our 20 minutes, but I have so many questions for you, and I hope you could tell how much I really admire what you've accomplished over the years. So, Kane, a huge thank you for spending some time at Mainframe Comic Con with us today. And Karen, it was very nice to meet you too. Thank you for being here.
Kane, before we go, first off, I have one quick question. And
Sure.
before I get to that, just thank you for being on, and huge thank you to your manager. I actually met her in both modes, and she definitely wanted to make sure that we took care of you.
Yeah,
here
Judy's
on
very
Mainframe.
good to me and her other clients, so we're all very happy to be with her.
You definitely should be. She definitely loves you. But my big question is, as a stunt performer, what would you say is your favorite stunt that you've ever done throughout your entire career?
Boy, there's a lot of them that I've really loved, but it sounds weird because my history, but fire stunts are very close to my heart. Obviously, you guys know I almost died doing a fire stunt first year in my career. Still carry the scars from it, but it is such a dramatic looking stunt if it's done properly that I've always enjoyed doing that. And it's a stunt that you can do throughout your career because there's no cumulative damage done to your body. Like, you can't keep flipping cars when you're 60 years old because you've sustained some brain injuries of some type, no matter if it's done perfectly or not. But with fire, as long as you do it properly, you can do it as long as you want. And my very favorite fire stunt I've ever done, which would be at the top of my list of all-time stunts, is the burn in Part 7, Friday the 13th, Part 7, because I was on fire for so long, so much longer than anyone was doing at the time. And it's because I had the proper people helping me get set up. There's a stuntman, very well-known guy named Paul Short, that has set me up on every fire stunt I've ever done, except the one that burned me. So he's got a pretty good record with me. So I would say that fire stunt in Part 7 is right at the top of my favorites.
Kane, thanks for jumping on. We got to move. I'm sorry, our next guest is about to leave. So thank you, guys. We're gonna have to go right into our next guest.
Kane.
Thank you, Barry. Thanks, Good luck with everything. Stay safe.
And we're bringing him on right now, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, Reb Brown. Reb, can you hear me, Reb?
Guys, how are you? Yeah, I can.
Good.
What's going on?
Hey, man, I'm going to bring on our host. 1 second, okay?
No problem.
And it's all yours, guys. And the guys, he's on mute. Hey, Reb, it was a great day. Thanks for, I know we had to work through some technical difficulty, but
we had more technical problems. I can't believe it. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the other guys
on this thing, but I'm here. I made it.
Yeah. But Reb, do you want how? Well, the first question up is we're asking everybody the same thing over and over is how you're dealing with all of this. And while CJ gets his mic unmuted,
I'm ready.
Oh, there you go, CJ.
Ready to go. Hello, Mr. Brown. How are you?
You know, I mean, this confinement is just driving me up the tree. I mean, this confinement is just driving me up the tree. And, you know, my wife and I were just going, hey, what can we do? But I want to say thank you to all the first responders, all the nurses, all the doctors, all the truck drivers, all the people that are bringing us the food. Thank you and God bless you for taking care of us in this situation. I really, really appreciate it. And can't say enough for it. And God bless them all.
Absolutely, 100%. You're a gentleman and a scholar. But I didn't get to do my proper introduction, so real quick, I'm going to run down a few of the great things you've done. We are here with the major star of screen and stage. He was a former USC fullback. He appeared on television shows such as Kojak, Marcus Welby, MD, The $6 Million Man, Chips,
Listen,
Happy
let's go into
Days.
some of my movies, okay?
Oh, absolutely. I was getting there. Sir, you are a American treasure. You were in some great movies. One I watched recently was Space Mutiny. That was a fantastic one. It was immortalized by MST3K. You were also the original movie length Sentinel of Liberty, Captain America, and two 1979 movies.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Reb Brown. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. I'm doing well.
Good. Keeping you and your family safe and healthy.
Yes, we are. We are.
So what have you been doing in your downtime?
I just found out something that a movie I did called Uncommon Valor
Yes, sir.
with Gene
Gene
Hackman
Hackman.
and
Yes, sir.
all those guys. It just came out on Blu-ray. So if you guys get a chance, take a peek at that. That's one of the things I'm very proud of. And I'll just mention a few things that I'm very proud of that I've been able to do.
Okay.
I did Death of a Soldier back in the 86, and I was nominated for Best Actor there in Australia, which was the second time. And then Distant Thunder, and of course Yore, and some of these other ones that I've done. But I've really enjoyed being an actor and being with the people and going to different places and being able to experience different countries and everything. And the best thing I ever got out of it was I met my wife on a set, and first day I told her I loved her. Second day I told her I was going to marry her. So, I mean, that being said, let's go on. You can ask me anything you want.
Was that Space Mutiny that you met your
Excuse me?
wife on? Was the movie Space Mutiny that you met your wife on set?
No, I didn't meet her on Space Mutiny. No, we met on a television show called The Ted Knight Show that she was an original on. And it was, I was a guest star, and we were at a table, and I looked down there, and you were familiar with The Godfather, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you know the Thunderbolt?
The Thunderbolt.
Yeah, that's when you get hit with a Thunderbolt.
Okay.
I got hit with it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I said, she's the one. And plus I saw her on the pilot, and I told my roommate at the time, I said, oh man, I got to meet her. And I got to. And we've been married for a period of time, and I'll tell you, it was a blessing. Thank God for her.
Awesome. That's a great story. Let's see. You are most well known for playing Captain America in the first
Yes.
full-length film. You were also the first actor to play Captain America to throw the shield on film. Could you tell me a little bit about the experience of making those two movies? The sequel also came out.
Captain America was an absolute blast. I mean, I got to work with Christopher Lee in the second one, and Steve Forrest in the first one, and a bunch of other good people, and Heather Menzies, who's passed away recently, and Connie Selica and Len Berman. They were good people, and we had a blast doing it. I mean, being a superhero is something you can't explain unless you've been able to play it. I mean, being able to run around and do those things that we were able to do.
Oh, yeah,
I remember when in 2011 when the first Avenger came out, some boys in the neighborhood they got to see the Captain Americas that I was in, and they said, "Hey Reb, can you still jump that high?" I said, "Not anymore." And this is the experiences that I had on the show. I mean, were just absolutely incredibly fun. I have one that I've told before, but I think you might enjoy it.
Okay.
I was working in we were in Venice Beach, California, and I was coming out of my motorhome in full regalia, shield, everything. Okay, and we were right there on the beach, and on the wall there there was this guy that was obviously very drunk, okay? And he looks up and sees me and he goes, "Man, I got to stop drinking." And he drops down from the wall, and I think to myself, I said, "Oh yeah, that kind of blew my persona right there because it made me laugh." Okay, and then he crawls back up on the wall, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Well, maybe not." And I'll never forget that as long as I live. I mean, playing Captain America and then having the opportunity to go to some of these Comic Cons and meet the people that were kids that saw it when I was doing it, and then meet their children. And it just warms my heart to be able to experience that and be with these people and feel good about it. Now, throwing the shield was kind of fun.
Yeah.
The way they did it, the sounds. We were using some of the stuff from the $6 Million Man, the running and the whole thing like that.
Mhm.
But I really enjoyed it. And the reason it was a clear shield is because of the fact, because I was on a motorcycle, the highway patrol would not let me have one that was solid because I had to be able to see through it. And that's where I had to wear a helmet instead of the normal cowl. So those are some of the reasons that I did what I did.
That's great. That's great. You also did make a cameo in the 2011 Captain America as well, right?
Excuse me?
You made a cameo with Stan Lee in the most recent.
No, I didn't.
No?
No, I didn't. They didn't have me in it.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. Let's see.
That's okay. I wanted to be in it, but hey, things happen, and I wasn't.
Let's see. I am a big fan of B Movie TV on Roku, and they do a lot of older movies. Zach Romero is obviously a big fan. He just recently put out a montage video of a lot of your movies with a lot of the awesome Reb Brown screams and shooting scenes and things like that.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of those footage?
Yeah, I've said that I have a scream that can kill people in other countries. That's what I've seen that before. Yeah, I mean, I just did that. When I played ball, when I carried the football, that's exactly what I did. I would scream when with
Yelling going down the
guard.
field.
It just became part of what I did. It just felt comfortable for me.
No, it worked.
And I enjoy the action, very much that way. And then doing that thing, they did that. They did a montage of all the different screens that were on there.
Yes, sir. It was great. It just went from clip to clip to clip, just screaming, shooting, stomping, yelling. It was fantastic. It's a great little piece. We'll see if we can put that together.
That's cool.
Have you been involved in any new projects?
Excuse me?
Are you doing any new projects?
No, I haven't been doing any acting in a while. I mean, somebody calls me up and says, "You want to do this?" Yeah, we'll check and see and go do it. But I've been doing the Comic Cons and stuff like that, and I enjoy them very much. It's just a part of still being kind of in it and enjoying it and being with people. And I mean, I wish that I would have had the opportunity to use some of the stuff that they do now as far as the CGI. When I meet the people at these shows, I say, I'm not CGI. This is me, and my body tells me so because of what we've been through. But I mean, I remember at the premiere of the first Avenger, they said, "Reb, what would you have done with this?" I said, "Well, you give me $150 million, and we show you quite a bit."
Absolutely.
But I mean, it's fun. It's fun. I mean, I enjoy the shows and stuff like that, and I'm so glad the Marvel Comics has been, doing so well. I lost a dear friend recently. His name was Alan Bellman, who was one of the initial artists on Captain America, along with Stan Lee and those guys. And he was a dear friend. He passed away at 95 years old. And he really touched me, and he told me a lot of stories about what it was like back then, when he started and everything like that. And Captain America, to me, as far as being the character, was a wonderful experience because it's a pure character. It's just all good, and the only thing you want to do is just do the job and take care of people. And I think in this day and time, I think you can't ask for any more than that. And so I'm very, very thankful to be able to portray that character.
Absolutely. Could you tell us any of the other roles from some of your movies that you really enjoyed making? You mentioned Yor.
Yeah, there's Yor. I did Yor in Turkey, and I spent 6 months there. that was very difficult. It was out of a comic book. It was a 3-hour mini. It was a mini series of 6 hours or something they did out of it. And they cut it down to an hour and a half. And then let's see, Uncommon Valor. I mean, I really enjoyed doing that with those guys.
It's a great film.
Gene Hackman, Tex Cobb, Harold Sylvester, Tim Thomerson, Patrick Swayze. It was a blast. I had a wonderful time on that. And I enjoyed doing Big Wednesday too, which was a surf movie that I did for John Milius back when. And I learned how to surf for the film. In fact, on the audition for that, he wanted somebody that could really fight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did the audition, I went into the room there and he says, okay, you're in a bar fight. What would you do? And I went into a little bit of the stuff that actually, at one time I was a bouncer in a bar, so I had a pretty good acclamation of what it was. And it worked for me. And he says, can you surf? I said, yeah, no problem. Well, I can't. I could not do that at the time, but I had to learn, and I did. And Distant Thunder was very, very, very good for me too, as far as a film that I did. That was about tripwire vets. Okay, it was John Lithgow and Ralph Macchio, and I really got to feel for these guys, what they go through and the traumatic feelings that they have. And God bless them all, and God bless all the service people. I mean, the things that they do for us to protect us is incredible. It is just absolutely incredible. And I just hope that all of them are okay and taking care. I mean, that film showed me a lot about what they go through as far as their, anxieties and depression. And it's tough. I actually met a gentleman on that film. His name was Tommy Faulkner, and he had 3 children, and he was a Vietnam veteran. He did, I think, 3 tours, and he had 3 children, and 2 of them were deaf and 1 was blind. Okay. And because of the Agent Orange. So, the things that these guys go through is incredible for us. Okay. So I just want to put a shout out to them and say, thank you. And God bless you all.
That's very kind of you. Yes, absolutely. They're they do the things that so many of us can't do. And then they protect us. And there's a lot of people right now in these trying times, just keeping America rolling. And we're, trying to do our small part here, bring some entertainment to people and raise a little money for charity. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in and having a nice talk with us. And we're, couldn't be happier to be able to have a nice conversation with Captain America, Mr. Reb Brown. So we'd like to thank you very much for coming on, sir. We're about running out of time. I'd like to thank you again and thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget that all the proceeds go to charity. Stick around. We have some great guests coming up. We have Ming Chen, David Harbour, and the cast of Robot Chicken, and a ton of other entertainment and comic guests.
Thank you.
Hey, Reb, do you want to tell everybody where they can find your link real quick?
Yes. It's the Reb Brown official website.com and Reb Brown official website.net.
All right, guys. Okay? Thank you so much.
And listen, you guys, it was a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Again, Reb. And coming up real short, guys, we have a special guest, Ming from Comic Book Man. So we'll be back in 60 seconds.
Chicago Comics is the premier comic and collectible shop located in the heart of the Windy City. Founded in 1991, Chicago Comics brings a large and comprehensive comic book selection to collectors of all ages. Chicago Comics specializes in small press and hard-to-find indie comic titles and carries almost all available superhero titles and tons of merchandise. Toys and statues, clothing, and collectibles, Chicago Comics has everything you were looking for and a whole lot more. Whether you're a hardcore collector, casual fan, or weekly reader, you'll find what you're looking for at Chicago Comics. Open 7 days a week, stop by Chicago Comics, 3244 North Clark Street in the heart of Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood. Or check them out online at chicagocomics.com.
Hey everybody, my name is Ryan McClellan from Yesterday's Entertainment Tomorrow, and I hope you are enjoying the fun and excitement of Mainframe Comic Con, a truly one-of-a-kind Comic-Con experience. In between all the celebrity interviews, you can check out how to donate to the American Red Cross and Hero Initiative. And also check out my channel for all the latest and greatest entertainment news. Celebrity interviews like Intellivision CEO Tommy Tallarico.
Grandma ain't going to be playing Night Stalker. I can tell you this right now.
The cast of Clerks.
You guys disgust me.
And the hottest journalists, like Drunkle Vader.
3 glorious hours of previews for movies I have no interest in seeing.
We look forward to you subscribing the channel. And now back to Mainframe Comic Con.
Ming, and you know that guy that was just in that commercial, don't you?
I do. It was pretty funny watching him ham it up for definitely check out yesterday's entertainment tomorrow. But yes, Ryan McClellan, big shout out to you.
Yeah, well, there was actually a clip from your Shared Universe podcast studio, which we'll talk about in just a second. Welcome to the show, Ming. Guys, I just want to remind you, we are broadcasting here live from Chicago Comics in the heart of the Windy City. How's it going, Ming? How's social isolation treating you?
I'm doing great. Social isolation stinks. It's awful. And I mean, I would pay a lot of money just to be in Chicago right now. I love your city. I love your backdrop. I have not been to the stash, I think, since this all happened. So I'm missing all of that for sure.
This has to make you a little bit jealous seeing this beautiful Chicago Comics comic shop behind you.
Yeah, I feel like the Twilight Zone where I just crushed my glasses and I can't read any of those beautiful books behind you. So very jealous. But we'll be back there soon. I mean, we just gotta wait this out, and it stinks. But I think somebody told me, it's like, you know what, make a list of all the things that you want to do when this is all over. And going to Chicago is definitely up there.
Awesome. Well, definitely stop by Chicago Comics. Stop by us. Come on the Chuckload of Comics show. So, wow, thank you so much for being here. Of all the guests that I was not nervous about being able to log on and have everything work out totally smoothly, it was you, because you run a podcast studio yourself with Mike Zabsig, right? A Shared Universe.
I do. If you watch Comic Book Man, if you're a fan of Comic Book Men, you'll see in between those silly shots of us trying to buy or haggle over, a Hulk 181 or Giant Size X-Men #1, you'll see us talking around a podcast table with Kevin Smith, a poker table. And at first you might be like, what are these guys doing? And later I was like, oh, whoa, they're podcasting. This looks like fun. So, and we've been doing it for years though, thanks to Kevin. He's been doing this since 2007, got us all sucked into it. And we were like, wow, this is fun. I wonder if we could teach other people how much fun this is. So we got off our duffs, got off our butts, stopped reading comics for a second, and we opened up a whole studio where we help people launch comics. And now we're helping people live stream though. We just kind of kicked it up a notch.
Yeah, the live streaming really is becoming the wave of the future in the past, I'd say, month or so. Like it's everywhere you go. Last time you were on our show on Chuckload of Comics, we talked like a Shared Universe was not really in its infancy, but it was kind of new. And I've since seen you're starting to expand it a little bit, and you're opening up other locations. You're really going global with this a Shared Universe podcast studio. Tell us a little bit about where it came from and how it's grown since last we talked.
Yeah, I imagine most people watching or listening right now listen to a podcast or at least know what a podcast is. And I got inspired by the movie Pump Up the Volume, Christian Slater, 1990, where back then he was doing pirate radio, and at the end he gets arrested by the FCC for basically what we're doing right now. We're just spreading our message and talking about whatever we want to talk about, and with no restrictions from any government body. And I learned from Kevin, it's like your life is more fun when you can say whatever you want. If there's one thing I learned from Kevin Smith, it's just say whatever you want, worry about the consequences later. And before there was no way to do that. You could talk into a tape recorder maybe, or yell it out into the ether, drunk at a bar somewhere, but it kind of ended there. And now with podcasting, you can whip out a smartphone, you can buy a cheap recorder and get it up on iTunes and Spotify and spread that message. So we wanted to teach other people how to do that too. We really wanted to spread that fun to everybody. Opened up a studio about 2 years ago where we teach classes there. We have people come and record their weekly shows there. We bring in, oddly enough, we brought in remote guests. People couldn't be there physically. Every so often, we would bring in people like this, never thinking that it would be a full-time thing for a little bit. But so we were kind of prepared for this. And I didn't know if anybody would use this. I thought, all right, maybe it's just us. Then our friends came in, then friends of friends came in. And then there was that one day where people came in, we had clients come in. I was like, we don't know these people. We can't screw this up. This is, this is the big shot. and they had so much fun and they couldn't wait to come back. And I was like, wow, this crazy idea of opening up a studio devoted to podcasting might actually work. And yeah, we've grown a lot in those 2 years. Open up an additional location not far from here. And yeah, the dream is to have it everywhere: Chicago, San Francisco, Nashville, Austin, to share our universes all around the world for sure.
I mean, you say how easy it is, but I mean, honestly, it's podcasting is a lot more difficult than, say, starting up a YouTube channel, just having a recording and throwing it up on the internet. I mean, there's some stuff you really got to know about the technical aspect. I mean, okay, you recorded a file, where do you put it? And you help people, you kind of walk them through, you train them. Do you just, can they only produce there, or do you give them all the tools, you train them how to do it, and then you can send them on their way to do it themselves?
Yeah, I can do it either way. Preferably, our at the heart of it, we want people to come to our studio, and the most of the heart of it was to actually get people to come in around a table behind a microphone and talk face to face. We don't really do that anymore. We're too busy making stupid TikTok videos and sending each other naked photos on Snapchat. It's like
hashtag naked photos on Snapchat.
Yeah, exactly. So I really wanted to get. I think that has actually lost where you don't, where you actually see people and actually talk to them. I thought that was lost, so I actually wanted to bring them back, closer together. But now we're not allowed to be next to each other, so this is definitely the next best thing, and it works out really well. So when everything's over and we do come back, we're going to be offering this to people around the world if they want to podcast from 2 different locations. And while I would love to, see them and talk to them and sometimes even smell them. You don't have to. So
something I wanted to ask you about. This totally came as a surprise to me. About a couple hours ago, we had Lloyd Kaufman. He was on the show. He was on Mainframe Comic Con, and he rolled a first look trailer for his new movie. I think you know where I'm going with this. Hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Yeah.
And so we're watching the trailer, and it's hilarious, and it's disgusting, just typical Troma thing. And then who do I see on the screen but Ming Chen? You're in the new Troma film.
I am. There was an episode of Comic Book Men where all 4 of us competed to see who had the chops to be in a Troma movie, and it was not easy. The Troma, getting into Tromaville is not an easy thing. You got to work at it. You have to spit. You literally have to spit green foam. You have to crush heads. It's not easy. It takes a certain mindset, certain attitude, certain level of disgust to get into a Troma movie, and I won out. So I went down for one day. We shot at a bar in Brooklyn, and there was fake green cocaine everywhere. They totally trashed this bar. And I think you saw the trailer. I looked. If you see that one scene of me and you have funny feelings about it, it's okay. It's okay to accept those feelings. It's okay. But leave it up to Lloyd to be like, hey, will you wear a prosthetic? I'm like, sure. And I didn't think that it would be that large, I guess, but it worked out. I thought I looked great.
Well, you looked right at home, Ming, covered in God knows what in that trailer. If you guys haven't seen it, it should be up on. If you rewind back to once this video is live, you got to check it out. Let's talk a little bit about the stash. We were at New York Comic Con several years ago, and we made the Kevin Smith pilgrimage to the Quick Stop. We went to the Jay and Silent Bob Secret Stash. We met Mike. How's the stash doing during this whole thing? Anything going on over to the stash that's new that we can announce?
So the store unfortunately closed. We tried to argue that it was a essential business. I mean, come on, it is essential, and the politicians didn't see it that way. So unfortunately, we had to close about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Mike is still going in for a couple hours a day. Mike Zapsik. We're still mailing out comics to our reservists. We're taking phone orders. So if there's that trade paperback that you've been looking for your collection, whether you're just dying to read, give Mike a call. You can Google the phone number. It's a public phone number. Give him a call and he'll ship it right out to you. Mike's actually launched a blind box service as well, where for $25 you get $40 worth of merchandise, and it's tiered, so it goes up from there. And I think you can email jandbobstuff@gmail.com to get that box. And Mike doesn't like sending out crap, so you'll definitely get some good stuff for that. So Yeah, I mean, like, you know, like everybody else, like you guys, we're just trying to stay afloat, man. Everybody's just trying to stay afloat. You know, there's definitely a lot of worry, a lot of uncertainty with the comic book industry, but I think you know, we're much like the superheroes we read about. We're pretty resilient. We face adversity, and you know, like Luke Cage says, you know, always forward, man. You just keep moving forward. So.
Absolutely. I mean, for all you people that think that Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash isn't a real place, it is an absolute real place in the beautiful downtown city of Red Bank, New Jersey. You go in there, and there's not only just an amazing selection of comic books, collectibles. There's lots of Kevin Smith merchandise. It's like a museum for everything Kevin Smith. You can get autographed stuff. So I highly implore you, make the pilgrimage to Red Bank. And while you're there, stop by a Shared Universe podcast studio. Are you guys in Red Bank? Are you near the?
We're 10 minutes away. So yeah, we always tell people, all right, go to the stash. Buy whatever you want to, talk to Walt and Mike and whoever else might be there. Sometimes on a rare occasion, you can catch Brian Johnson, and then come back and podcast about it. Talk about your experience. Talk about your experience getting there. Talk about your experience being there. And that's a podcast. That's how Kevin started. So that's definitely a podcast. And
that's what we're doing right now. We're talking about visit to the stash.
Yeah, for sure. And come hang out with us. And yeah, and for anybody asking, yes, we really do work there. We work there while we were shooting the show. We worked there before the show. We're still there after the show. So it's not like Pawn Stars where you'll never see us. You're guaranteed to at least catch one comic book man there when we open back up Monday through Saturday.
I can attest. We were there, and Mike was there hard at work, and he stopped and he took photos with us. I want to talk, obviously, I mean, great segue to AMC's Comic Book Men. 7 seasons this thing ran, right?
Yeah, 7 seasons, 96 episodes. Yeah, crazy when people are like, man, you ran longer than Star Trek. You ran longer than $6 Million Man.
Take that, William Shatner.
And you definitely ran longer than Firefly. I'm like, whoa, don't desecrate Firefly like that. Like, listen, I know what the better show is for sure. But and we were having so much fun. We didn't even realize that. I never think that it was that many. It was like, wow, that's a lot. That's pretty. It's a lot. And unfortunately we got canceled. But I'm like, man, I'm ready to keep going, man. Like, when do we get our reboot? Let's do it. Nothing else is going on.
That's how we are at Mainframe Comic Con. This is the last day of it, and we just want to go for another 2 days. Kind of tell us about sort of the evolution of the show, because obviously, like you said, it's a legitimate store.
Yes.
And like, how did this happen? I mean, was it a Kevin Smith? Did Kevin pitch to AMC? Did AMC kind of say, hey, you got any ideas?
From what I understand, so Kevin's got a comic book shop in New Jersey, and when The Walking Dead took off, AMC was like, whoa, this is this weird zombie show that was based off a comic book is getting huge. We need to keep this going. And so I think their initial thought was there was all comic book fans flocking to the show, and they're like, all right, we need another show based in the world of comic books to keep the audience going. I think the original thought was to put us between seasons of The Walking Dead, so they would have that audience year round. So they didn't know what they wanted to do, though. They had no idea the format. They had no idea what they wanted to do. So they were like, hey, we'll contact the guy who would know what to do if he had the chance to make a comic book themed TV show. We'll talk to the King Geek himself, Kevin Smith. So I think the meeting kind of went like, hey, Kevin, we're thinking about doing a comic book based TV show. Would you like to work on it? And he was like, no, I'm kind of busy right now. And they're like, all right, well, if you were to do it, how would you do it? And he was like, you know what? Why don't you just take that show Pawn Stars and put it in a comic book shop? And instead of like old muskets and legal documents from the 60s or 1800s, why don't you just have people buy and sell vintage toys and comics? And they're like, AMC is kind of like, well, you know what? Congratulations. You just created a TV show. Let's get this rolling. So, and in order to see if it would work, they had to shoot some kind of pilot episode. Just bring in some cameras, roll it, cut it together.
I've seen that pilot on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and they just wanted to see if that idea would even work. And they're kind of scrambling. They didn't have much of a budget. Like, well, where are we going to get like people to be in the pilot? And Kevin's like, well, why don't you throw these 4 guys in? I have 4 guys. They work for me. Just tell them what to do. If you need to tell them what to say for the purposes of the pilot, you can. They're not actors or anything. They're just a bunch of knuckleheads, but they're warm bodies. So just throw them in. And so we did that. We did that for like 3 days. And when the execs saw it, they're like, dude, idiot, these are the guys.
Yeah.
These aren't placeholders. these are the guys we want. So, yeah. So much like everything else I do in life, I fell into it ass backwards.
So you guys were seat fillers, and then they were like, "Wait a second, these guys are gold."
Yeah. I was like, these seat fillers are we're kind of good. These guys are kind of funny. So, and to kind of bolster just to make sure that we were who we were, they went and listened back to a lot of our podcast episodes, and they went back to Kevin, and they're like, "Hey, if these guys can interact on TV like they do on the podcast, I think we're gonna have a long running show here." So, so for any of you podcasters out there, I'm not saying that having a podcast will lead to TV, but I'm not saying it won't either. It happened to us. It definitely gave them a lot more confidence, I think, hearing us interact vocally. And if you listen to the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast that Walt and Brian Quinn from Practical Jokers do, they make fun of me on that podcast a lot, and I think they heard that played a big part of it. So like, wait a minute, they're always busting on this Asian guy. Like, if I'm sure this should translate to TV, and it definitely did. So
we all felt very bad for you. So I mean, the show, it came on the scene, not a bad time slot right after Walking Dead, I must say, and the show exploded. Do you have a favorite moment, something that happened to you personally, or just somebody that walked in the store that was just like a life-changing experience?
Meeting Stan Lee definitely was. You can't get better than that. That's like meeting God. And for anybody out there who might say that's sacrilegious, I say this: what does God do? God creates things. What did Stan Lee do? He created things. He created a whole world. So he, that was cool. This is a guy who, if he didn't exist, our lives, we would not be talking to each other right now.
Yeah,
that's a fact. And it would be a dark world without Stan Lee.
It kind of is, man. I mean, it's no coincidence. Stan Lee passes away, and now look at us. The entire world is shut down. I think that there's something there. We want to ask a couple of questions from people in the chat. First one comes from Lindsay Farms Kitchen. Honest question: why isn't the show on anymore?
You get on TV, and then one day you get canceled. Unless you're The Simpsons, you don't last forever. And I'm sure it boiled down to money. I think our ratings were good. But that's above my pay grade, man. That's beyond my control. But hey, they keep bringing things back. So
that's true.
Yeah, no one's ever come up to me like, man, I loved your show, but I got really sick of it. I've never heard that. So that, who knows? We may come back one day.
Well, next time we do Mainframe Comic Con, we got to give you all some screen time, so we can do a full comic book men panel.
Yeah, I love that. But I'll gladly. I love that you sandwiched me between two superheroes. So I'll gladly make way for Mr. David Harbour. He's the man.
You're on a good day, my friend.
Yeah, he has a gold Funko Pop figure out there. It's 1 of 40, so it's one of the rarest pop figures out there. And he's a good dude.
I haven't even read this. I just threw it up. It's probably a bad idea. But it's from Lost in Comics. Says, I have to know, customers shown coming through the door to trade and sell their stuff to the shop, did they already know who was coming in advance? People walking in, did it make you nervous? Camera crew?
Yeah, so we get this all the time. They're like, well, did you just set up cameras and wait for people to bring in cool stuff to buy or sell? And if we did that, it would have taken 8 years to shoot one episode. As you know, people do, of course, come in to buy or sell things. As you also know, 99% of it is complete garbage. So we did get, we would shoot 3 of those interactions per day while we were shooting the show. And we got a quick rundown of what was coming in. But once they came in, they put their thing, they explained why they were selling it. It was off and running. It was just like, all right, this guy's going to bring in a G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. All right, be funny. But the producers kind of knew what was in our wheelhouse. Like, I love G.I. Joe. I love 80s toys. So if you bring in anything G.I. Joe or Transformers, that reaction to me going like, holy crap, I haven't seen this since 1984. That's a completely real reaction, because I love that stuff so much, for sure.
Well, Ming, thanks a lot for being here. We can't wait to have you back next Mainframe Comic Con, next Chuckload Comics. We'll see you around the con circuit. Give our best to everybody at a Shared Universe podcast studio, and we hope this stash opens up really, really soon.
Thank you. Love you guys. I can't wait to see you guys in person. We will party soon enough. And thank you, Mainframe Comic Con.
Yeah, well, stick around because the next guest I have coming up is a bit intimidating. I can see him in the backstage right now, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit scared shitless. So it's Mr. David Harbour. Right after this short commercial break, we're going to have David Harbour on.
What's up, everyone? So this guy just came to my house and he's like, hey, I'll trade you an Amazing Spider-Man number 121 for all your toilet paper, all your food, and your Nintendo Switch. This Corona stuff is getting crazy. I swear to God, I'm following him right now to make sure he doesn't pester anyone else. He went down that way, to the right, by the railroad tracks. Yeah, this is getting crazy.
Hey guys, Chuck here from the YouTube show Chuckload of Comics. As we are now queuing up the next amazing celebrity guest, I just want to remind you guys, Mainframe Comic Con is a 100% for charity telethon. So take a second, head on over to mainframecomiccon.com, click that donate button. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to the American Red Cross COVID-19 Relief Fund and the Hero Initiative. So help us, help others by generously donating what you can at mainframecomiccon.com. And for more fun, check out Chuckload of Comics every single Sunday on YouTube for a breakdown of all the geeky headlines going on every single week in the world of fandom. So YouTube, Chuckload of Comics, and we hope you continue to enjoy all the fun, free action here at Mainframe Comic Con, guys. You know, I just realized I'm wearing the exact same shirt right now than I was just wearing in that promo, guys. We got a very special guest coming up. We're broadcasting live from Chicago Comics. Our next guest here at Mainframe, you know him as Police Chief Jim Hopper from Stranger Things. He played Hellboy in 2019. He plays Red Guardian in the upcoming Black Widow movie, guys. The legendary, the one, the only Mr. David Harbour. How are you doing, sir?
Get in there. Oh, there we go. Look at that, right in the frame. What's up, Chicago?
How's it going, man? People are so excited that you're joining us here on Mainframe.
That's very sweet. I'm gonna apologize, or I don't know if I'll apologize, but I will say things are getting weird in quarantine with the facial hair.
It's looking really good.
It's the first time I've been on camera with this. I think it's called a horseshoe mustache.
You got the cowboy mustache for sure. Can I give you a high five real quick? I just want to kind of let's do a virtual high five.
Wait,
here.
Hold on.
I know it's backward.
Yours. Ready?
Yes.
Oh, that was good, man. Oh,
I am giving you that high five because we just watched the movie Extraction last night on the interwebs. Oh my God. Can we talk for just a second about Extraction? Amazing movie. Like the cinematography on that movie was insane. But I really want to talk about that fight sequence between you and Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah,
I mean, Hellboy, Thor, going at it.
It was directed by a stunt guy, this guy, Sam Hargrave, who does all the stunts for the Avengers movies and all that stuff. He does second unit director of all that stuff. So yeah, he really and his team were like, they really knew how to do that stuff. But I was pretty impressed with myself, I have to say. I'm not really into that stunt stuff, but there was one point when I went in for ADR to do, like some grunts during that fight, and I saw this one shot of me when I spin him around, I hit him twice in the shoulder kind of and then throw him down, and I was like, thanks for speeding up the film, guys, because it looks like I'm really fast. And they were like, we didn't speed up the film, you are that fast. And I was like,
that's something you just tell to actors. I mean, that's the oldest trick in the book, David.
It probably is.
How long did that fight scene take to shoot, to train for, or did you just go at it?
No, we didn't do hardly anything. I mean, I showed up. I think I shot that whole movie like a week in Thailand. So, I showed up and it was pretty full on. Like I just went there. And again, of course, a lot of it is my stunt double, because there were some points too. I do have to say this about Chris Hemsworth. There was one point when we were starting where he like kind of barrels into me, and they wanted me. I did this move where I just kind of like hit him off me and like shove him off. And I tried that, and for the first time, he came into me, and I did that thing, and it was like hitting a side of beef, like a cow. I could not get more like a bull. Like I could not get him off me. I was like, damn, he's a very dense individual, just like a lot of density. But yeah, we like worked for a week and we shot that thing in like, I think it was 2 days we shot the fight. So it was pretty quick. I mean, they were fast. These guys were really fast. They knew what they were doing.
It's amazing the stunts in that movie. I don't want to just talk about Extraction all day, but I was just really blown away. And you can tell it was almost directed by a stunt coordinator because the stunts are nuts, and the camera movements and just the way they follow people jumping off buildings and running down hallways.
Yeah, there's nobody that could do that except him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam's really incredible.
Well, jumping the shark here, guys. Hopper lives, man.
Oh, man. Come on. You guys have seen the trailer for a season of Stranger Things that we hopefully will be able to shoot.
So where are we at?
One day. Huh?
Where are we at in the production?
Yeah, we could talk about this. I mean, Jesus. It's I think we shot like about 4 weeks. Like we were 2 weeks in Vilnius, Lithuania, and that's where we shot that teaser that you saw on the railroad. And then we came back and they started shooting a little bit in Atlanta, and we had a table read with everybody. I think it was like March 2nd or 3rd. And then I shot another couple days, and then I came back. And they shot for a couple more weeks, and then they got shut down. So I think it's been like a month. We shot like a month and a half or something. But, you know, it takes us like 8 months to shoot the show, at least 8 months. It's a big show. It usually takes about a month an episode. So we're just at the beginning, you know, and I hope we get back soon so we can get it out, but we'll have to see.
We got our first super chat. Thank you so much for donating, by the way, super chats. Joshua Palace says, he says, Mr. Harbour, tremendous fan. How was it jumping between the worlds of Suicide Squad, all-time favorite comic book movie, and the upcoming Black Widow?
Is great. You know, I mean, I didn't have much to do on Suicide Squad, so I have a lot more to do in Black Widow, so that was a lot more fun for me. I much prefer like shoots where I have a lot to do. But Suicide Squad was great. Like Joel Kinnaman is a buddy of mine. I really like him, and we hung out a little bit. And then Viola Davis is an actress I really admire and love from New York. I've known her, and so it's great to see her. And you know, it was a fun little shoot, but I was only there very briefly. Whereas Black Widow is like a whole thing. I mean, the Red Guardian is such a great character. I mean, I can't wait for people to see this movie because, you know, I can't tell you that much about it, but it's just a great role, and I loved inhabiting it. It was it was like a difficult shoot because it was a lot of stunts. It was big action stuff, which I'm 45 years old. It's like my body's not built to like, you know, run around like that. But it does get some very funny footage when it does run around like that. But it's, you know, it was a lot of, it was difficult shoot, but it was also like a lot of fun. I mean, the scenes are incredible. The director, this woman, Kate Shortland, is incredible. Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, Scarlett Johansson. It's like a dream cast. So I'm just excited for people to see it. I loved Black Widow. Like, I loved making it.
We had Andy Park on Mainframe yesterday, and he's actually the director of visual development for the MCU. And we've had him on the show before, and he talked a lot about sort of the design of Taskmaster. He's the guy who pretty much comes up with the concept development and stuff. So I want to ask you, I know you can't talk about the movie itself, but I want to kind of gauge your reaction when you first started seeing these trailers roll out, because I'm sure you haven't seen the movie yet. I mean, Red Guardian looks like a hilariously wonderful character. What was your reaction when you first saw the first trailer, but then the second trailer, which highlighted you a little bit more?
I mean, I think it's great. I'm as excited as anybody else. Like the minute after I shoot these things, I just become like a fan, like everybody else. Like I don't even really associate with it myself anymore. It just becomes like a thing that I think is cool. I mean, and the character's just so. I'd be interested to see what Andy talked about the development of a Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Did he talk at all about the development of the suits with the Red Guardian and stuff?
A little bit. He talked about the suits.
Because there was some really interesting development phases on Red Guardian, and even at one point too, like, you know, because when they hired me, I kind of had this crazy beard, and there was some internal discussions about whether or not I shave it and stuff, but they let me keep it, which I thought was really great, and it's really plays really well with what they designed for the outfit. I mean, it's this monstrous, insane beard with like these white straggly bits. I mean, it's insane. And the character himself is, I mean, he's a bit insane. But I like him. He's very funny. He's got like a lot of funny stuff, but he's also got like, he's got some depth too. I mean, he made some bad choices in his life. The Soviet Union kind of fell apart when he least expected it. He's had some tragedy. He's had some problems with competition with some other superheroes. There's all these sort of little things, and also he's kind of a badass. Like he can still fight, and so there's like, it's a great character. I just can't wait for you to see it.
They're definitely leaning into the comedic qualities of the character in the trailer, especially you talk about the beard. I mean, just the beard itself becomes almost like a joke because he's trying to put on the mask and it still fits and all that great stuff. I'm curious to know,
stupid faces too.
You hear a lot of people when they work on MCU films that they only get a sample of the script as to prevent spoilers and stuff. Did you get the whole script in advance, or was it kind of like Endgame when they would just get a chunk?
No, we got the whole thing. I don't know why they gave it to us. That was a really bad move on their part. I mean, we're just starting with this thing, and they gave it to us. I guess, with something like Endgame, I guess that's like, a kind of bigger thing, and they have maybe more people to worry about. With us, it was mainly like the four of us, and there's like OT and Ray Winston and William Hurt too, but it's mainly like the four of us who we needed to work so intensely on the whole storyline that I think without the whole structure of the film, it would have really suffered. And in fact, when we came in there, we had like 2 weeks of rehearsals where we were training for the stunts and all, but also we would sit down with Kate and the writer and the producers, and we would come up with all these other things. And I think we added a lot to the movie as we went. And we could only have done that with the script. But, we brought a lot of ourselves to it. And I think Kate really wanted to make a personal movie and something with resonance. I know certainly with Natasha and Yelena's character, like she was very interested in making a movie about, young women and wanted their take on this relationship between these two, young women. And I think, again, like these movies, I understand security and stuff, but I get kind of annoyed because as artists, like it's so important for us to know the whole arc of what we're playing so we can set things up and like lay pipe for things down the road and things like that. So they really did allow us that, and it was great.
Well, it's really exciting to find out that, because I mean, so many movies are getting pushed into 2021. Black Widow still has a November 2020 release date.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see. That I think that all. I mean, it would be great. I would love to have that happen. But I think the funniest thing about this whole pandemic is that we all are like first-year sociology students. Like we all are just spitballing about from the president to like us. And everyone in between. Like we're all just spitballing, going like, well, I think we'll be out of here in May, and like nobody has a clue. So I think that's the thing. Like they told us they were pushing the release date, and I think that's prudent and good, but we'll have to see if it actually happens. I would love to have everybody at the theater in November, but as long as it's safe and it's a place we can all be safe in.
Yeah, totally true. I mean, I knew when I found out I was going to have David Harbour on, I would be jumping back and forth from Black Widow, back to Stranger Things. I do have one more Stranger Things question before we open it up to the chat. I mean, the show has evolved so much, and the cast of characters, the actors, have gone from relative obscurity to just superstardom. How has the vibe changed on set from season 1 to season 2, now that obviously paychecks are getting bigger and people are becoming more and more superstars and household names? Has it changed a lot, the vibe on set?
The vibe when you actually get to work on set hasn't changed hardly at all. Like, I think that because I do think that the intentions of all of us when we're shooting the show, I think we all love it. No matter what we play out in our public lives, like we all just love making that show, and we kind of geek out about how much we love these characters. And I was there from the very beginning, but also it doesn't matter how famous Millie Bobby Brown gets. Like when she comes in and does a scene with me and plays Levin with me, all that stuff all the cosmetics and the magazine covers, it all drops away, and it just becomes two actors who know each other very well. And I've known her since she was 11 years old, and sort of watch and have an avuncular, loving relationship with her, and that's all there when we shoot. Now in the in-between, like, you know, in the in-betweens and in the like read-throughs and the press events, like, yeah, it's gotten ridiculous and stupid and all the things I hate, and yet all the things, you know, that I myself play into. I mean, it has all the trappings of everything you could imagine that the horror show and the wonderfulness of fame entails. But when we get to actually shooting, it feels like the first couple weeks. It just feels like that pure love of storytelling that we all have.
We got one chat right here from Kyra N. writes, Mr. David Harbour, huge fan here and very respectful, I might add. Got my Stranger Things shirt on. What is the nerdiest thing about you? And do you geek out on anything specifically or collect anything?
No, Kyra. Oh no, Kyra. I mean, the amount of nerdy things about me is insane. Like, I don't think there are unnerdy things about me. I mean, oh God, I can't, it just, I get tense even confessing it. But I went through a vortex like 13 years ago where I played World of Warcraft almost, 12, 14 hours a day for a couple months there. I mean, the nerdiest nerd. I'm those kids in South Park. So I have that. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid. I do love video games, technology like that. I used to even paint Warhammer figurines, but I never had the guts to actually sit down and play the tabletop with the other kids, because it always seemed like there were 12-year-old kids who could just destroy me. Couldn't do that, but I would paint the figures. There's a tremendous amount of nerdy things about me, Kira. So thanks for embarrassing the hell out of me.
Way to go, Kyra. Way to embarrass David Harbour. He was feeling really cool with his new mustache.
Mustache and everything. I'm feeling like all cool.
We got another one. Thank you, obviously, Comics with Bueller, for the super chat. David, I saw you have a comic featuring the first appearance of Red Guardian in your collection.
Yeah.
You also have the first Hellboy appearance.
That's a good question. Yeah, I do have the first Red Guardian appearance. I have it hanging on my wall. The Hellboy appearances, I don't know which is the first. I have the whole omnibus, though, like of all the graphic novels. So I assume I have the first, but I just have like that omnibus of every single one. Like, it's got like the Wild Hunt and like all those different graphic novels. So I don't actually know which is the first one. Sorry. But I'm sure I have it somewhere.
It's probably somewhere. Caitlin C, again, thank you very much for the super chat. It's going to charity. Writes, hi, David. What video games are you playing during this quarantine? And are you still going to make Twitch channel? I hope you're doing well.
I was thinking about making a Twitch channel. I'm still thinking about that. Apparently, it's a lot harder. I thought you could just drop in and like do a Twitch like you can with Instagram Live, but there's this thing called OBS, and there's all these different panels and all these things. My friend, I have a couple of friends who are Twitch streamers, like Man vs. Game and Grizzly Guy Gaming, and these guys, Lars Fest, and these guys were trying to help me out with setting this thing up, and I went down the rabbit hole for a little bit, and then now I've abandoned all of it. So thank you guys for letting me waste your time. But we'll see. I may get it back on. The video games I am playing in quarantine, though, are I just got the virtual reality thing for PlayStation. You know, the VR goggles or whatever. So I've been playing a lot of Beat Saber. Do you know this game?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Oh, man. I love me some Beat Saber. And I just got Ping Pong. And the other game that I play, which is an indie game that I've played for years that I just love on the PlayStation, and you can play it on any platform really, is The Binding of Isaac, which is like a small indie platformer, like kind of like Super Mario Brothers, but a very dark, twisted version of it with a mom who's trying to kill her son because she's told by God that she has to sacrifice the lamb. Anyway.
Rated T for teen.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I know we got a lot more questions, but while we wait for some, going back to Stranger Things. I mean, I remember when I first saw the trailer for Stranger Things season 1, I mean, I could tell immediately this is going to be something special. It's something like we've never seen before. Did you know in that first script reading, when you were handed the gig, did you know right away that this was something that no one's ever really seen before, and did you know how it could explode?
No, I didn't. I loved the script when I read it, and I thought it was really special. But then, you know, as we're shooting, like, you get into this very insular place where you're just dealing with each other, and you're just in this rabbit hole of months and months of shooting this thing. And for me, like, I start to second guess it. Like, look, Maddie Schwartz is asking how my book's going. And that's another thing where it's like, my book is the same way. Like, you get into this thing where you're just with it, and we were just with the showrunners, and you don't know anymore. Like, you can't even see straight because you're still guided by these principles of what you think are creative and what you think is interesting. But at a certain point, you have no response from the outside world, and so nobody's laughing or clapping or whatever. You have no idea. And I think after I finished the first season, I was so drained. I remember coming home and seeing a friend of mine and going out to dinner, and I was so, like, I could barely speak. I just had this weird thing where I felt so, like, drained and just kind of awkward, and like I'd been in this bubble and I was gone. And so I had no idea what we made. And then even before it was coming out, there were very little advertisements, and I thought Netflix was going to bury it. And I really thought it was going to be, you know, it was just going to come and go. And I thought that I'd be back to, you know, auditioning for something else or like whatever. I blew my shot at a Netflix series. And then it came out, and like that weekend, it just exploded like nothing I've ever been in. And I was, you know, gratified and proud, and just felt great.
Well, speaking of other works you've done, thanks, Maddie Schwartz. I hope that answers your question. I read somewhere, I mean, you've been in tons of movies, even before Stranger Things. I mean, Brokeback Mountain, Quantum of Solace, Green Hornet, Suicide Squad. Obviously, I read one time, and tell me if this is true and if you still do it, that you actually, I think it was A Walk Among the Tombstones. You went, I believe, to one of the early screenings of it with an audience, and you sat in the background because you played a really dark, like, kind of an evil character in that movie.
Yeah,
and you went and you watched and sort of got a vibe for the audience's reaction to that character, and they actually laughed to this really dark character. Do you still ever go to movies and kind of sit in the back and engage audience reactions?
Do I do that anymore? I don't really. When was the last time I went? I feel like the last time I went might have been that Walk Among the Tombstones. I feel like it might have been Walk Among the Tombstones. I think I might have seen Equalizer in a theater too. I like to go like Saturday nights in New York, or Friday or Saturday nights in New York, like around 11, like really late night, to like Union Square or like Times Square, like a big packed house with a lot of loud, drunk people yelling at the screen, going like, "Don't go in there! What are you doing?" So yeah, but I haven't been in a while. Maybe I'll do that with Black Widow. I should go see Black Widow in a theater. That would be fun.
Come to Chicago and see it with us.
We
won't tell anybody.
Okay, cool.
I mean, there's a lot of quotes from you out there that I read online. I want to read one to you. You once said, "I want to bring back love handles and eating sandwiches." Can you expound on that statement?
Yeah, what's that statement? I guess at the time it was just like people. I felt like I was battling narcissism. Like, there's a lot of narcissism in our culture, and then there's some narcissism in me that I'm always constantly battling, which is reflected in everything I say. But I think I just, you know, I just wanted people to kind of enjoy their lives. I feel like a lot of American culture can be saving up or storing up for something or the next thing or the next thing. And I feel like we sometimes do that with our bodies. Like, we're always trying to train for something or get at a certain point, I'll be like, you know, ripped, or I'll feel this way, or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I guess what I meant by the sandwich and the love handles thing is like, I want you to enjoy your life, and I want you to enjoy your body and enjoy the time you have, because this actually is it. Like right now, like this is it. This is what we get. This is it. So that's my Zen Buddhist dollop of the day.
Wrapped around a sandwich. We got another comment here from Quentin Velosi, writes, also a big fan, Mr. Harbour. Do you identify with the 80s themes of Stranger Things? I mean, that's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. So I'm almost the same age as the kids. I think the kids are a little bit older than me, but I was born in 1975. So in 1983, I would have been 8 years old. 11 is theoretically 11. So I'm a little bit behind them. I'm like Priya's age, like Erica. I'm like Erica's age. So I remember all that stuff. In fact, like this past season when we were shooting in that mall, there were all these stores that were set dressed, which I don't know if you saw or not in the background. I don't know what we really shot, but there was like a Walden Books. I don't know if there's any 40 plus people out there that know what Walden Books was. There you go. There was like an amazing store. They also had something called the Ground Round, which I used to eat at as a kid, and you could throw peanut shells on the ground. I remember I loved that. But there were all these old stores, and I thought it was really cool. It took me right back to being 16 years old and walking around looking for the new Debbie Gibson CD on the mall,
There you go. You once said, I got some fun quotes as I'm waiting for more people to put in more comments. You said, I'm around 6'4" and 240 pounds, so I really feel that intimidated by other men. I don't really feel intimidated by other men, but I got to give it up to that Terry Bradshaw. That guy is a bulldog.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw?
Yeah, I did a Tide commercial for the Super Bowl, and the year before, Terry Bradshaw had done the Tide commercial, and so we had a little promo thing together, and I got to or had to hang out with him for a day, not sure which, but that guy is a beast, and he's, I'm used to sort of being very big personality, but I've never met someone with a larger personality than that. I felt completely dwarfed, both in stature and in personality. That man is, he's an animal. He's an animal.
A bulldog. Jennifer Garcia writes, which character that you have done was the most fun to play?
I mean, in terms of my film and TV work, I would definitely say Hopper. I love, I just love Hopper. And then, my cheesy theater background, I played Hamlet when I was at this place called Theater Monmouth in Maine, and that's been my favorite other role in the theater.
I think we got time for about one more before we move on to section number 2 of Mainframe Comic Con, the Big City Send Out. Thank you for the super chat writes. Hi, David. What are some of the qualities you look for when working with directors? What are the things that you look or things that you don't look or like or don't like?
I like directors. It's funny. I kind of like directors who, of course you want a director who's going to help you. But at this point, I actually just want a director to not lie to me. And I want a director to stay out of my way. And if they can do that, I think they're great directors. A lot of times directors will tell you something and they're lying to you because it expedites some of their process, and I wind up, and you'd see it in the edit that they've messed with you in a certain way, and I hate that. And then the other thing that can sometimes happen is directors can be overexcited and over-involved in your process. And sometimes, one of the greatest things about the Duffer Brothers were, I think that first season when we shot, I think they gave me one note. I think they had hired me because they wanted me and they wanted what I brought. But as an actor, you have to show up with your own artistry and your own point of view. And I think that took me a long time to develop. And I would encourage any other actors out there that if you have your own point of view, you can, and you meet directors who will leave you alone, you can do a lot.
It's perfect segue to this final question, which I think is a great way to wrap this up. Lost in Comics writes, is Hopper your natural personality? Because I kind of get that vibe.
It's so funny. To a certain degree, yes, to a certain degree, Hopper is me. But I do think it's funny when, there was I'm an artist who lives in New York. I'm a weird artist who lives in New York. Hopper's a Midwestern sheriff. So I would not do well in the Midwest, policing people. I'm kind of a, I'm like a weird New York artist. So he has the same qualities inside, but we do not behave the same way in sort of reality.
Sorry, Lost in Comics. I don't think that was the answer you were hoping for.
Sorry. You just want me to say yes. I know you do. Yes, it's me. I'm Dad. Come here. Let me hold you.
Art doesn't always imitate life. Well, David, thank you so much for being here. We can't thank you enough. Let's go ahead and end with one more high five. I think we got this one.
Oh, wait. How do you do it? You go this way? You
go that way. I'm up top. The other way. Okay. There we go. Bam.
Hey!
All right, David Harbour, thank you so much. We're all looking
Thanks,
forward to
guys.
Black Widow. We hope it comes out in November, but if it doesn't, we're still looking forward to it when it comes
I
out.
hope so too. Nice talking to you guys. Thanks for doing this for charity and everything. It's really incredible.
Oh,
thank you all the fans for donating and everything too. It's great.
All right, guys. So this is how this is going to work. It has already been 4 hours here on Mainframe Comic Con. So we got to wrap up this feed, but we're starting another feed. We've still got an entire day and night worth of content. Coming up next is the cast and crew of the show, Robot Chicken, including Seth Green. The entire Robot Chicken crew is coming out right next. So if you're on the mainframecomiccon.com website, go to that live video. You'll see there's this player, and then just under it is going to be the start of another 4 hours of fun here at Mainframe. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, guys. Check out feed number 2, starting right about now at mainframecomiccon.com. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Click that donate button while you're there, and we'll see you in just a minute.